On this Tuesday, the conservative media had a blast last week, mocking President Biden after he tripped and fell over a sandbag at the Air Force Academy graduation. Just another example of a bumbling 80-year-old not able to stand tall, right? But that's completely unfair. Not that fair play counts very much in America these days. A sandbag poorly placed on a stage could have tripped up LeBron James. The Secret Service was at fault, failing to secure the platform from impediments. That is the truth, and agents should be disciplined. The embarrassing incident does not, however, provide cover for Mr. Biden's overall presence in the White House, which is putting every American in jeopardy. Over the weekend, a Chinese warship menaced a U.S. naval vessel in the Taiwan Strait. Russian warplanes routinely buzz American jets over international waters. Any thinking individual has to know that President Biden is weak and mentally impaired, and that he is declining rapidly in full view of the world. Yet 40% of the American public still supports him. That is troubling in the extreme. Now, I understand the free stuff situation and that the corrupt press generally props up Mr. Biden. But if you would vote for him, you are sandbagging yourself and putting this country in grave danger. Back after this.
Do you feel like you're watching your nation crumble before your eyes? It's Jesse Kelly, television and radio host and now world-famous author. In my new book, The Anti-Communist Manifesto, I'll show you how communism has infected America, from its infiltration of our education system to its unholy alliance with American corporations. Don't be fooled by agitators hiding behind woke causes. The Anti-Communist Manifesto, a practical guide for patriots. Available now at all bookstores and online.
That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 meteorologist Matt Chambers with your first alert forecast, an air quality alert day as smoky skies linger and ozone levels jump this afternoon. If you've got respiratory issues, it's a good idea to limit your outdoor exertion today. Otherwise, nice morning by June standards, and humidity stays low this afternoon. A dry day, but a warm one, a high at 89. Down into the mid-60s tonight before a backdoor cold front slides in Wednesday and brings a few showers and storms. Not a drought buster, unfortunately. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
At this point, President Trump is way ahead.
News, analysis, opinion.
The thing that's a shock to the economy is an administration at war with the American people.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Is this a matter in politics of second verse same as the first, or maybe third verse or fourth verse same as the first? I'm talking about all the different states that are on a gun control tangent right now. I mean, there are states, Hawaii, Washington, others, St. Louis right here, all looking to pass new gun control laws despite the U.S. Supreme Court making it very clear the Second Amendment means what it says. You shall not infringe the rights of people to protect themselves. So we've got another set of showdowns over all of these states and Illinois and many others. So a little bit later on today, former Congressman Bob Barr, who is a member of the National Board of Directors of the National Rifle Association, going to be with us to give us that update. You know, another big government thing to watch out for that's working its way through Congress in a lot of states has to do with online access. And, we know all the bad stuff on social media, and a lot of states, Republican and Democrat, they are saying we need new requirements. We need new safeguards. We need new identification measures. Somehow we're going to get in and control social media and access to it by young people. But what are the trade-offs? What are those unintended consequences? I'm Mike Ferguson. Thanks for making News Talk STL part of your morning. Conversation with the R Street Institute's Shoshana Weissman recently really was enlightening, because I know there's a lot of Republicans, a lot of conservatives, and I get where you're coming from. A lot of good faith saying, no, we've got to keep kids off this. this platform, at least until they're older, and that means that we need some new regulations in place. Be careful what you ask for. Shoshana kind of explains why in this conversation.
All right, it's to protect us, but really it's for the children, Gabe.
Oh, it's always for the children.
It's for the children, so hand over your personal information, will you?
Wait a minute, what?
That's how this works.
We have to. What are we doing now?
Okay, I'm just saying it's for the children. Stop questioning. Both Republicans and Democrats say that you should just hand over your personal information.
That's going to be a problem for me.
Okay, well, let's find out whether you're right or wrong. 7:06 right now. I'm Mike Ferguson. Got Gabe Pfeiffer here, who's being obstinate about his personal information, and Stell Pontigas here. By the way, at 7:20, we have to talk about the man messing with a real St. Louis tradition.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to do that next segment, okay?
Okay.
All right. Big problems we've got we've talked about plenty with for instance, TikTok. Mining information, mining data, tracking people, both macro, maybe even micro, depending on who you are. Other platforms now and possibly in the future could be a problem when it comes to either your privacy or to hacking and all kinds of things. So Republicans, Democrats around the country, different states, Utah, some others, they've said, what we need to do? What we need to do here is we need to start requiring the platforms to get more information to verify that you're old enough to be there, or make sure that you have permission, or somehow document who's coming in the front door, check in with the bouncer.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard this, and there are some sites that actually have done this voluntarily. At the very least, they've had a little thing where you're supposed to sign off on it. But that's about it.
Well, and if it's voluntary, then you just pick whether or not you want to be there or not. But we're talking about government intervention here.
And
so
here we go.
At our friends over at R Street Institute, rstreet.org, Shoshana Weissman wrote a really thought-provoking op-ed here. It's called "If Platforms Are Required to Have Your Government IDs and Face Scans, Hackers and Enemy Governments Can Access Them Too." And Shoshana joins us right now. Shoshana, by the way, is in possession of, I think, my wife's favorite Twitter account, which would be Senator Shoshana. And so, Shoshana, good to talk to you again. Thanks for being on the program. But it's to protect us. It's to protect our children. I mean, if we have to sign up to make sure that we keep kids out of places they're not supposed to be, what's the problem? We're just giving up a little bit of privacy and liberty.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, like this is something that I didn't expect to get into because I didn't see it moving. And once it started moving, I'm like, oh, no. Because basically, like, the legislation in effect will require government IDs, your face scans, or other biometrics in order to log into social media. And the concern is that they don't want kids on social media. This isn't about pornography, where you understand the concern a little more, but these problems will still exist because age verification is actually a really hard thing to do online. Like in person, you see someone and you're, hey, you're kind of young. Can I just check your ID quick? They don't maintain it. It's just like a quick thing, and it's not like in a database. But online stuff can be tracked really easily. There's proposals to make sure that platforms have databases of this stuff to prove compliance. And even where it doesn't say that, how else are they going to prove compliance except to say, hey, we have their face cams, we have their government IDs, we're good. And it gets more dangerous over time because it's going to go to IP addresses, the stuff that tells you all about you and your interests and your location and stuff. And, there's privacy concerns with what some platforms are doing already, but forcing this stuff to access free speech is like, that's massive unconstitutional concerns, and it's also really, really dangerous.
Good morning, Shoshana. Gabe Pfeiffer here. So I think if the federal government drafted legislation to say, okay, everybody has to record their biometrics and their government IDs onto this website and at .gov, and then we're going to keep it and track it and keep an eye on you. Everybody would rightly look at that and say, wait a minute, that's a step too far. But for some reason, we're being bamboozled by this whole TikTok thing, and I'm having trouble following how people aren't seeing this.
Yeah, likewise. And it's frustrating because even some Fourth Amendment rights people on both sides are missing a little. A lot of them are really good on this, and a lot of them are pointing this out as well. But a lot of states are running this. A lot of states are running it through their own departments. So you're still having this exact same issue like you're talking about. And one of the federal proposals creates a program through the Department of Commerce. Platforms wouldn't have to use it, but they get a safe harbor, which means that basically the government's not going to go after them if they're using the Department of Commerce program. And that program, the authors really tried to write it better, but there's really no way to do this, which is part of the problem. And then the other day, there's news that the Department of Commerce is feeding foreign governments information about their citizens, and it's like, okay, so you're cool with giving your stuff to this department that's doing this stuff. Plus, I mean, if the government has their data, it's going to use it. We all fought back about the IRS using this stuff, about the IRS using biometrics, but and that's for financial information, but for free speech, we can put up major barriers and enact cybersecurity concerns for free speech. That's fine.
We're visiting with Shoshana Weissman from the R Street Institute. Let me play devil's advocate a little bit, saying, okay, but we know there's bad stuff out there. It's the Wild West online. There's just freedom everywhere. You can't take a step online without stepping in some freedom, and it's really messy. And we've got to do something to protect kids or to keep people out of areas that could be dangerous. It's just the price of having an ever-growing cyberspace out there. What's the argument to say? What's the argument against, hey, we've got to do something?
For sure. So one of the big ones is that 20 and 30 years ago, this kind of stuff went through the courts already, and the courts were like, you cannot do this because it's going to stop a lot of free speech. Like, in your effort to protect children, you're going to stop endless amounts of speech. A lot of people won't be willing, at the time of credit cards, a lot of people won't be willing to use their credit cards. Also, kids can get their parents' credit cards. So what is this but a wink and a nod? So the Supreme Court said this. They were like, why don't you just use parent filters? I'm not saying that parents have it easy. Like, I know a lot of parents that struggle to keep their kids off social media and offline after they've discussed it already. But I think parent-filtered conversations with kids are a really good way to go about it, especially because the government solution is just so flawed. It's not like this is like a pretty good thing and that would be better, but this is a really, really badly flawed thing that can, harm our individual cybersecurity and our national cybersecurity. And the series I'm writing goes through like every little bit of it, all of the cyber stuff, all of the constitutional stuff. And you can't even make this work because compliance is 100% thing. It's not like government's going to be like, oh, you tried, you're 70%, you're good. And the most accurate age verification service that uses face scanning is only like 98% accurate. That's not compliance in the eyes of the law. So, government is trying to do something that's impossible here. And I'm not saying, again, I know that parents have like a real problem with making sure their kids are doing the right thing online and protecting them from stuff. But the government solution is not better.
Good morning, Shoshana. This is Stal Ponticus. I'm not saying this is going to happen tomorrow, but isn't all of this putting us on that slippery slope to social credit scores like we see in China?
It really could go that way. Here's a great example. Through the Department of Commerce thing, it says in the legislation, they won't say where you verified your social media. It just says that, you're over this age and we have your info here. But how much do we trust that? How much do we trust that if there's a tiny social media site that talks a lot against the government and opposes the government a lot, and you go to find someone who's verified their age through it, and it's one of the people you thought was talking on that site. Now that it's easier to unmask people online, it's already kind of easy. I think people underestimate. It takes a little time, but you can figure out who anonymous users are a lot of times. But this really gives the government a leg up in figuring out people's identity online. What if you sign up? What if you trust them and you sign up using your email that has the same username you use as an anonymous account? Then they have that. It makes it a lot easier to tell who people are who oppose the government and to go right after them.
Hey, Shoshana, let me come back to something you mentioned just a little bit ago about enemy governments, hackers could access all of this as well. Obviously, in all seriousness, we know there's been a number of data leaks that have happened from the IRS to others. What is potentially, and this is following up with what you just said, what is potentially the effect on us as consumers? I mean, once you get past the privacy and the Fourth Amendment and even possibly First Amendment, what could this mean to us as consumers when we're talking about, just sign up for the database thing, get verified, you'll be fine?
Yeah, a lot of people are going to look at that and be like, I'm not doing that. If the government's telling them to collect my information, later on they're going to use third-party doctrine to try to, it basically says that you don't have an interest in your third-party data. That was sort of overturned by the courts, not overturned, but it was like reined in a little by the courts. But there's still kind of this understanding in the courts that you don't have an interest in data you voluntarily give over, which means that information that you give to platforms. And, in the same way that a lot of people have real cybersecurity concerns when it comes to TikTok, these laws apply to TikTok. They would force TikTok to scan your face or acquire your government IDs. And then that's, for the same reason we're concerned about China having all that information, you should be really concerned. You never know what government is tied in with what new platform that you're not aware of. My dad recently wanted to sign up for the shopping network, and I forgot what it's called, but I looked into it and I'm like, Dad, that's China. That's like Chinese run. Do not do that. It's like their government's thing. But there's risk all over. And, what if these platforms leak your financial information, your IDs, your social security numbers, your face scans that prove it, that prove your identity? That's really, really dangerous stuff that we should not be encouraging.
Okay, and you can find this article and your whole series at rstreet.org. The one I'm looking at is if platforms are required to have your government IDs and face scans, hackers and enemy governments can access them too. So it's almost like we should let a developing technology develop and not rush to get out ahead of it with regulations.
I like that. That's my dream, but I'm a dreamer.
All right. Senator Shoshana on Twitter is where you find her. You'll see that and also a whole lot more. It's one of the most fun Twitter accounts out there. So Shoshana, thanks so much for being on and great work on the article.
Thank you so much.
The News Talk STL Morning News Roundup coming your way here in just about 3 minutes and about 38 seconds right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
It's Tuesday, and at 4:25, we'll speak with David Stokes from the Show Me Institute on 5 St. Louis County libraries offering free social workers.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-432-8150. 800-432-8150. 800-432-8150. That's 800-432-8150.
Columbo and Katie.
Katie, I'm really interested to know if you even have ever heard of some of these things, let alone done them. Using a pencil to rewind a cassette tape.
Never done it. Never, ever done it.
1,000,000 times I've done it. Skip, right?
Explain to me what a cassette tape is.
Oh my gosh, not that far.
Tony Colombo, Katie Fitzpatrick. Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
For $1 a day, if any covered appliance breaks in your home, we guarantee to fix or replace it. All makes and models, washers, dryers, refrigerators, air conditioners, and more. Guaranteed to be fixed or replaced for $1 a day. Call the Home Service Club now for free information.
800-399-3701. 800-399-3701. 800-399-3701. That's 800-399-3701.
This news update brought to you by Anton's Plumbing and HVAC. Call Anton's at 314-338-3941 or visit them at antonshvac.com.
Hey everybody, it's Paul Kurtman. Make sure you join me every Saturday from 12 to 1 here on News Talk STL for the Paul Kurtman Show. But right now, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Okay, just how welcoming does at least one leftist politician want you to be towards illegals?
I'm going to guess very welcoming.
You got a spare bedroom?
Yes.
Okay, you're welcoming. He actually said it. I've got the audio to prove it. Also, there are some new presidential candidates everywhere. So watch where you're going, will you? You can't go very far without bumping into a presidential candidate. Also, no, you know what? I don't want to talk about the Cardinals.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Yes, let's talk about them.
I don't want to
We must talk about them.
Oh, fine. It's the news, I guess. All right. 5:51. That's mean old Stel Ponticus right there. I'm Mike Ferguson. All right, other news happening here. FBI Director Christopher Wray, it appears, will be held in contempt of Congress later this week by the House Oversight Committee. This comes after the FBI just absolutely refuses to hand over a subpoenaed document. And those who have seen the document say it shows President Biden was involved in a bribery scheme with a foreign national while he was vice president. Oversight Committee Chair James Comer and Ranking Member Democrat Jamie Raskin were allowed to view the document on Monday, but they are critical of the FBI's refusal to show it to the rest of the committee. Here's Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy. He was on with Jesse Waters Primetime on Fox, and here's what he had to say about the situation.
Every single person on the Oversight Committee, they have a responsibility, not just two people, Republicans and Democrats. All of them have a right to see it. That is their job. That is the role of that committee. And we have constitutional authority over the FBI. They don't get to tell us yes or no about this process.
Okay, the hearings, it looks like, is going to start on Thursday. Let me tell you what the Speaker's absolutely 100% right about, is that the whole purpose of an oversight committee, and the fact is that even though the FBI, Department of Justice, are part of the administration, Congress does have authority over this for oversight. McCarthy has been wrong about some things lately, but he's right about this.
I hate to say it, though, it didn't seem to make any difference with Eric Holder.
That's correct. See, and this is a pattern that we have established over the past few presidencies, in that is that Congress has very tepid authority. So let's see what kind of, let's say backbone. I'll say backbone because I'm on the radio. Let's see what kind of backbone the Republicans have when it comes to push comes to shove, because the FBI has become so arrogant that they have just said, yeah, no, your rules don't apply to us. Let me tell you something. If rules don't apply to the law enforcement branch of any executive administration, or the rules don't apply to any administration, that's how you get tyranny within a generation. And I know I don't use hyperbolic words very often at all, but that's how you get it, is you don't check the power and authority of those with the power and the guns.
By the way, I think you can use the word cojones and get away with it.
I can say that. That's what I should say. Yes, that's it. That's a good one. See, I only got 3 hours of sleep last night, so I need to get more coffee here.
Okay.
A Missouri inmate scheduled to die by lethal injection today. That is after Governor Parson denied clemency to 42-year-old Michael Tacius. Here's what happened. Tacius killed 2 guards at the Randolph County Jail in 2000. He had been released from that county jail, and he went back and was trying to help another inmate escape. If the execution is carried out, and it looks like it will be, this will be the 3rd in the state of Missouri this year and the 12th in the nation. A little bit later on today, I'm going to give you the details of the case itself. You tell me whether you think that is justice. That's the word I'm looking for there. Okay, GOP presidential candidate Tim Scott was booed when he appeared Monday on The View.
When Scott praised Florida governor and fellow presidential candidate Ron DeSantis, he was booed by some members of The View's live audience. Scott had defended DeSantis in his dealings with Disney over what Scott called our young kids and what they're being indoctrinated with. Host Whoopi Goldberg apologized to the senator, telling the crowd, "No, no, no, not here," reminding viewers that at The View, quote, "We don't have to believe everything people say, but you cannot boo people here." Bob Agnew reporting.
I've got the audio clips.
Okay.
We're going to get into that in a little bit. It basically went exactly as you would expect.
Yeah. And by the way, Joy Behar was not there.
I noticed that.
She had the day off.
What was up with that?
Oh, conveniently scheduled?
Oh, man. She does not want to deal with Tim Scott directly. All right. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. All right. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is expected to formally announce his unsuccessful campaign for president either today or Oh, wait a minute. Was that Freudian? Did I? Yes. I'm sorry. Let me say that again. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is expected to formally announce his campaign for president either today or possibly tomorrow with Brett Baer. Christie has indicated that he plans to be the anti-Trump candidate in the race, so there's that, I guess. Chris Sununu, the governor of New Hampshire, has reiterated that he is not going to be running for president. Mike Pence has filed his paperwork, his announcement likely coming tomorrow. A little bit later, we'll get into this. Cornel West has said...
How about that?
I mean,
wow.
Cornel West.
Talk about coming out of left field.
No, nice. Yes. If there's anybody who could make Joe Biden look like a moderate, it is, I mean, people refer to him as a socialist, and I think he would refer to himself as a socialist. You look at the party that he's running on, first of all, they have almost no ballot access, so he's not going to be a factor in the election itself. But is he more of a communist? I mean, but hey, he's well known. He's an academic, whatever. We'll talk about that just a little bit later. But Cornel West running for president because everybody should get free stuff.
That's right. It's America.
Yes, you are entitled to free stuff. Oh, geez, because he's one of the smart ones, remember? Okay. All right. You say I have to talk about the Cardinals?
I'm afraid so. Yes, you must. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the Cardinals get their series with the Rangers started off wrong. Okay. Texas walked it off in the bottom of the 9th for a 4-3 win in Arlington. The second game of the series is tonight at 7:05. Adam Wainwright started that game. He got no decision because it was still tied when he left in the 6th inning.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still 2-1, I think he is this year. He's either 2-1 or 2-2 this year. But the Cardinals, walk off in the 9th inning. I get it, but that's at least 4 in a row because they got swept by the Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
They did beat the Royals in the last game there. So that's 4 losses in a row, and the worst record in the NL gets even worse for a team that is underperforming. There's way too much talent on the team. Why am I hitting myself? For them to be in the position that they're in. I do think they're going to turn it around, but this is a mental thing. This isn't a physical thing right now.
Adam did make a comment after the game. Urgency might be a good idea.
Yes.
Welcome home to St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Democrats do what they do.
We choose truth over facts.
News, analysis, and opinion.
The FBI has been victimized by political capture.
People want to come forward, but they fear for their lives.
The president wants to borrow more money from China to pay people to stay home. Our timeline is short.
Nobody will get everything they want in these discussions.
101.9 and 94.1.
It's a mockery of American politics.
We can't fix America's debt by starving its people.
News Talk STL.
Home is where the heart is, but it's also where the money is too. If you want to make the most of your home, whether you're buying, selling, or staying put, tune into HomeWise, the financial talk show that gives you the real deal on home ownership. HomeWise tells you the secrets that banks, realtors, and contractors don't want you to know, and shows you how to save thousands of dollars on your mortgage, insurance, repairs, and maintenance. HomeWise, how to get the most out of every dollar you put into your home. Sunday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Post-COVID travel is on a surge. Many of you are traveling for fun because you've been locked up for 2 years. Listen, whether you're traveling for fun to Italy, Greece, Spain, France, or somewhere else fun in the world, or USA, now is a great time to book before the crowds hit and save. Plus, with a strong U.S. dollar, you'll get more travel bang for your buck. Right now is a smart time to make your reservations and call low-cost airlines. With one phone call, you can let us do all the work for free. We'll shop hundreds of airlines, hotels, resorts, and give you a way to save huge money on your vacation plans. And if you call right now, we'll give you a free hotel room with a qualified travel purchase. So call right now.
Call right now. 800-648-9175. 800-648-9175. 800-648-9175. That's 800-648-9175.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. The Republican chairman of the House Oversight Committee moving ahead with plans to hold FBI Director Christopher Wray in contempt of Congress for Wray's refusal to hand over a subpoenaed document dealing with the Biden family's business affairs.
Kentucky Republican Representative James Comer said a more than hour-long briefing he received Monday from Bureau officials does not amount to compliance with a subpoena. FBI officials came to the Capitol to brief Comer and Maryland Representative Jamie Raskin, the top Democrat on the panel.
Correspondent Norman Hall, the information subpoenaed by the panel is not classified. The Atlanta City Council approving funding for the construction of a proposed police and firefighter training center has been the scene of violent and destructive protests by anti-law enforcement activists. The war in Ukraine takes an even more dire turn, raising the specter of serious flooding and threatening a nuclear power plant.
Ukraine's accused Russian forces of blowing up a major dam and hydroelectric power station in a part of southern Ukraine that Russia controls, sending water gushing from the breached facility and threatening possible massive flooding and what officials call an ecological disaster. Ukrainian authorities have ordered hundreds of thousands of residents downriver to evacuate. Russian officials counter that the Kakhovka Dam was damaged by Ukrainian military strikes in the contested area. Ukrainian authorities have previously warned that the failure of the dam could unleash billions of gallons of water and flood Kherson. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
This 79th anniversary of D-Day not passing unnoticed on the beaches of Normandy, where commemorations are underway. An Oklahoma school board has approved a publicly funded religious school, despite warnings from the state's attorney general that it's unconstitutional. Watching Wall Street, Dow futures down 44 points and NASDAQ futures off 14. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I'm Corey, and this is my story. I was going through some financial troubles paying off my credit cards. I was paying high interest rates, and it just wasn't getting any better. And I knew I had to do something. So my mom told me about Trinity, and so I decided to call. Trinity was able to do something that I couldn't. I'm paying off my debt. I'm saving thousands, and things are really looking up. I promise you guys, you will not regret it when you called Trinity, because it was such a relief and less stress in my life, and it was the best thing I could have done for myself, because once I called Trinity, they took care of me, and I felt such a relief, a weight off my shoulders. Trinity was great to work with. They wanted to help me. I love it.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
I'm Corey, and I'm debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 meteorologist Matt Chambers with your first alert forecast, an air quality alert day as smoky skies linger and ozone levels jump this afternoon. If you've got respiratory issues, it's a good idea to limit your outdoor exertion today. Otherwise, nice morning by June standards, and humidity stays low this afternoon. A dry day, but a warm one, a high at 89. Down into the mid-60s tonight before a backdoor cold front slides in Wednesday and brings a few showers and storms. Not a drought buster, unfortunately. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote and accelerate the development of quality Christ-centered K-12 education.
Hi, this is Daryl Jones, president of the Herzog Foundation. Our primary goal is to advance Christian education so that families and culture flourish. The legacy of Stan's business career centers around making national transit ecosystems accessible and sustainable. Likewise, the legacy of Stan's philanthropy centers around making the ecosystems of Christian education more accessible and sustainable for families across the nation. Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more about our programs, including trainings, scholarships, conferences, news, and our podcast, Making the Leap.
Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more and sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. HerzogFoundation.com.
Larry Connors, USA.
And I'm against it. I'll fight it every step of the way, and so should you. And the parents who send their kids to this private school, we need to have a come to Jesus meeting.
Larry Connors, weeknights at 6 on News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
Just because you're offended, it doesn't mean you're right.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I love Jesus. He was my superhero.
Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Twitter is like being able to read every toilet wall in the world.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! This is your cousin.
Okay, this is before all of our time, but you guys remember the phrase government cheese, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the government handout.
We use that continually into the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. So you've heard of government cheese. What about government Plan B pills?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. All right. A local government is handing those out at no cost, other than, taxpayers, and with no questions asked. We'll get to that in just a second here.
Of course.
All right, Senator Tim Scott's appearance on The View went about as you would expect. Let's talk about that around 6:20. I've got the audio from it.
Man.
And then some of the interesting questions, because there's a couple different articles that I was reading from conservative media, one from Red State, one from another, making basically different arguments. The article, an opinion piece on Red State, was arguing that Tim Scott wasted his time. There's no point in any Republican or conservative ever going into a hostile territory like that. And another one saying, no, this was a good thing. Republicans ought to be punching back and going right at them. So that to me is the bigger question. And we've, of course, got right here in St. Louis some experience with conservatives going into the lion's den of insane liberals. And so we see this at the local level and the national level. I'm curious what people think about that. Also, it looks like we're in a drought in parts of Missouri. So some of the News Talk STL listing areas being asked to conserve water, believe it or not. We'll get to that just as well. 6:07 right now. I'm Mike Ferguson. Got Gabe Pfeiffer here. Got Stel Ponticus here. By the way, I am watching the Rumble chat box. So if you're on there, say hi. Got several people on there already.
Howdy, folks.
And, of course, you can also check us out on Facebook or on YouTube as well. If you look up Mike Ferguson in the morning, but Rumble's where it's at, people. I'm just saying that's where it's at. Okay, St. Louis County, not exactly known for avoiding controversy, because they're such a leftist organization at taxpayer expense. So tell me what you think about this, guys. St. Louis County Department of Public Health now handing out what people like to call emergency contraception at the 3 county health centers. So here's what's happening is the emergency contraception kits, that's what they're calling them, include the Plan B pills. And so this is what you use after unprotected sex or, according to the news copy, if other birth control methods fail. So the kits are being handed out normal business hours in Berkeley, in Jennings, and in Sunset Hills. And the kits are free to anybody who asks. You do not have to turn over personal information. You do not have to show ID. You do not have to explain yourself. You just walk in and say, I want a Plan B kit. Give me those pills. And they're going to go, okay, here you go. And so this is part of a partnership with the Missouri Family Health Council's Free Emergency Contraception Initiative, saying they want to break down barriers to what, of course, liberals like to call reproductive health. Thoughts?
Well, this is standard fare, I guess, for St. Louis County, just going on with their leftist agenda at taxpayer expense. I wonder if maybe one of the pro-life organizations might just go in and take them, no questions asked, and wipe them out.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because you're not turning over any information. So, but somebody would say...
I'm
well,
aggressive like that, though.
Yeah. So somebody would say, and I'm fighting off a sneeze here.
There it is. Wait, here it comes.
Oh, there it is.
Okay,
Sorry,
all right.
Sorry. I would say all the
Live
dust from
radio.
the baseball field last night, but it was an artificial turf field, so I can't blame that. Okay, but they would say, wait a minute, what, do you want more abortions?
No.
I mean, because this is the plan B, so it stops a pregnancy, so people are going to have more abortions if you don't hand it out for free. What's the response?
It's an abortion pill. Like that's what it does. It does the thing. And we don't want that thing to be done because there are people involved. So that would be my argument. It said, you know what, get the first part of the whole coming together thing correct. You don't have to worry about the second part.
Why do I suspect that there's a backdoor Planned Parenthood thing going on here? But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, the organization that's partnering with them, the what is it? The Missouri. Let me get this other one again here. Missouri Family Health Council. It's absolutely a left-leaning group. I don't know if they're involved with Planned Parenthood or not, but I'm sure that they would be in the same social circles. Let's put it that way. Without them. So yeah. Now, would you guys have a problem if they were saying, you know what, we're going to hand out free prophylactic care? You know, if we're going to hand not care, but prophylactic tools, we're going to hand out. You know, we're going to hand out condoms or whatever, something like those. Would you have an issue with that?
Well, they already do all that stuff. So I mean, we've already voiced our concerns about providing free things that promote certain lifestyles. We've already had that conversation back in the 80s, with gosh, I'm trying to remember the movement. The
RU 486?
Christian right movement.
Oh, moral majority.
The moral majority.
Yeah, moral
right.
majority.
Yeah, we've already voiced our concern for the use of condoms in classrooms and contraceptive pills just being available like candy. We've already had that discussion. They've done it anyway. They've been doing it for about 30 years. We've obviously kind of given up on that aspect of the fight because, fighting for the culture that way isn't probably the way to go anyway. So, no, I mean, it is what it is.
And that's the thing is, if we're looking at simply a taxpayer dollars and ROI type thing, and this sounds absolutely cold and calculated, but handing out something like condoms at health department buildings and offices, something like that, that's actually a good return on the dollar.
Sure.
If taxpayers are paying for it, it actually is. So I wouldn't have a lot of heartburn. The Plan B thing,
that's different.
You get into ethical issues there.
Exactly. I think that's where you kind of cross into the idea of government-sponsored killing of little miniature people.
Yeah, that's but that's not something that the Page administration is going to have any qualms with.
Oh no, that's part of their deal.
On a similar vein, even though it's not the same thing, in New York City, they're now giving out free drug paraphernalia stuff that they've got dispensaries kind of stuff that's available in the city.
That's been tried in a couple other places. Philadelphia tried that, and I don't think they kept up the program. A couple other places have tried that as well. The argument being that if you're in a controlled environment, you come in and you shoot up, you've got a volunteer, nurse or doctor or paramedic there or something like that. And if we, take your needles and give you clean ones, we're less likely to have other things spread. That's really, I've done on my syndicated show, I've actually done some segments on that. That's a fascinating mental exercise there. And the interesting thing is that where they've tried it, it generally has not worked. And I don't even think that's one of those things where somebody, whether it's on the left or the extreme small L libertarian side of things, because sometimes those cross over sometimes, that's actually an idea that probably came in really good faith. But for whatever reason, it just hasn't actually done what they hoped that it would do, if that makes any sense. But they're not handing out the drugs, but they're like, oh, here's the needle.
Yes.
So it's like handing, you're suicidal. I'm not gonna hand you the gun, but here are the bullets for your gun.
yeah, basically.
That's essentially what it's doing.
Here's your paraphernalia that you can use.
Right. Yeah, precisely. Boy. Yeah. And when that I think there's going to be another push for that in the coming years. I'm looking forward to having that conversation on the show because it's really interesting, really an interesting mental exercise from this. Okay, real quick here because I know we just got a minute or so before we get to the information segment here, and then we'll talk about this Tim Scott appearance on The View, which we knew was going to be interesting to say the least.
A little bit.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. This actually surprised me this morning. There are several parts of Missouri that are under a drought alert, which actually kind of makes sense now that I see that because other than that 20-minute shower we got at my house the other day, there hasn't been rain in a long time.
Oh yeah, I've had to pull out the old sprinkler for the front lawn because it was looking a little dry.
Well, if you were in Wentzville, they'd be a little miffed at you for that, by the way.
By the way, the indicator to me is I got a car wash about a week and a half ago, and the car still looks clean.
Oh,
there it is. Yeah.
Well, to me, my wife loves having flowers around the house, and they look really, really pretty.
Sure.
But we have to water them every single day.
Right.
And so she texted me the other day because she's out of town again, and she's like, "Hey, don't forget to water all the plants." I'm like, "Oh, I already did it. Took care of all of it, and then it rained for 20 minutes right after I got to it." So the city of Wentzville has issued what's called a voluntary water conservation declaration. Nothing's mandatory. Nobody's in trouble. But what they're saying is, hey, if you could just ease up on water usage right now, because with the drought and the river levels and where we get our water, it's a little bit low. And so the director of public works, Susan Spiegel, is quoted as saying, "Our system isn't really sized for an unlimited amount of water, so spreading that lawn irrigation out as much as we can is what we're trying to do." So here's what they're asking. So starting in June, because remember, even if we get a big thunderstorm or something, that takes a while to right size those water supplies. So starting June 12th, so next week, they're asking residents, if you're going to water your lawn and pull a Gabe over there, if you have an even numbered address, do it Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. If you have an odd numbered address, do it Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday in order to sort of just even out the consumption of water. And then they said if you want to do that, you want to do spot watering on your plants or whatever, try to keep it to 30 minutes or less in order to just kind of get out ahead of it. So they're not in a panic mode, but I think they're looking at some numbers and they're saying, okay, here's what's coming with the weather we've had and the weather that we're likely to have. So if you could just kind of ease up on the big stuff like watering your lawn. They're not talking about, don't flush the toilet or anything like that.
Right.
They're just saying the things that take up, several gallons of water, because if we water something like one of those big plants in front of our house, I mean, I'm putting the hose on and just leaving it there for 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm going, twice a day on the front lawn and a good watering on some back garden area. So, yeah, am I contributing to the problem? Am I part of the problem?
Well, I don't know. But, we're not in a full-blown drought. We're not expecting one. But there are drought conditions happening out there. So
people are worried.
Okay, Tim Scott goes on The View, retorts back and has a debate with him. How do you think it went for him? So the bigger question is, should conservatives, should Republicans even bother with stuff like this? That's the question being raised. We'll talk about that right around 6:20 here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Well, folks, spring has definitely sprung here in the Heartland. Great time to get Hanson's Tree Service out to your home or business to spruce up and take care of all your landscaping needs. Tim Jones here for Hanson's Tree Service. You can find them 24/7 at hansonstree.com. What are we talking about here? Organic mulch. Hanson's has beautiful organic mulch for all of your landscape beds. They can also take care of all your tree trimming and pruning services. Let Hanson's take care of all that stuff before our crazy spring storms take care of it for you. Give them a call anytime, 636-379-1830, hansonstree.com, hansonstree.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss as part of our lineup every week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. And in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Now, the Onder Prescription with Dr. Bob Onder.
I'm Dr. Bob Onder. We've all heard, unfortunately, about drag queen story hours, where schools and libraries have events for children featuring men dressed up as women, wanting children to sit on their laps while they read to them. Parents are rightly appalled, which led Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft to create rules by which parents could protect their kids against such age-inappropriate performances and against pornography. So imagine her surprise when Rachel Homelak brought her 4-year-old son to a library in St. Charles County and found a man dressed in drag working at a desk in the children's section. When she complained, Jason Kuhl, CEO of the St. Charles County Libraries, only stated that he was against discrimination and no changes would be made. Kuhl, who was fired from a Chicago area library system, refused to meet with Rachel. And in the past, he publicly opposed Ashcroft's common sense library rules. Dr. Bob's prescription? Fire Jason Kuhl.
Find more Dr. Bob Onder at bobondermo.com. This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hi, it's Dan Bongino here, and I'm proud to be on News Talk STL every weekday from 11 to 2. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the Morning.
It's been a mystery.
I love this song.
Great tune.
Yep. Okay, Senator Tim Scott follows through on his promise to appear on The View, and it goes about how you would expect on that. I just put this question up on the Rumble chat box. Should conservatives or other Republicans in general even bother going on some of these shows? Let's talk about that here in a couple minutes. It is 6:21 right now. That's Gabe over there. That's Stell over there. My name is Mike. Okay, just how welcoming do leftist politicians want us to be toward illegal immigrants? I'm so glad you asked. Got a guest room in your house? Well, we're going to talk about that at 6:35.
Oh, here we go.
I'm actually not kidding. Have you heard this audio clip?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's wild.
I actually was watching this, and I'm like, he said it?
He said it.
He said it?
For real.
Holy crap. All right. Okay, let me start this story about Tim Scott on the View with the headline the way the typical media would write this about other people. Okay? So let me use their approach to the headline here. Okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. Majority white audience boos black man on national television. That's how this works, right?
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's actually true. That's actually what happened. I mean, granted, you could make qualms about the way we put it, but that's the way we do things, right?
That's how it works.
Those are the rules.
If it's good for them, it's good for. I mean,
yeah.
Okay. So Tim Scott's appearance on The View, I don't think it was a win for him. I don't think it was a loss for him. Probably a waste of time, maybe, but that's debatable, and you could argue about that, and I'm willing to be wrong about that. 314-912-1019. Okay, so here's what he went on to talk about, and this is actually, I pulled the sound clip because the one from The View was so long, I was going to have to do a lot of editing, so I grabbed it from his Twitter because his campaign grabbed it, but they went and put some stupid music underneath it. So excuse the music, but the discussion is unedited. And so here's Tim Scott kind of throwing down with Sonny Hostin.
You don't believe in systemic racism. What is your definition of systemic racism?
One of the reasons why I'm on the show is because of the comments that were made, frankly, on this show, that the only way for a young African-American kid to be successful in this country is to be the exception and not the rule. That is a dangerous, offensive, disgusting message to send to our young people today, that the only way to succeed is by being the exception. The fact of the matter is we've had an African-American president, African-American vice president. We've had 2 African-Americans to be secretaries of the state. ABC, NBC, CBS, ESPN, CNN, Fox News all have African-American and Hispanic hosts. Yesterday's exception is today's rule.
Okay, the only thing that he was actually technically speaking wrong about is that Kamala Harris is not actually African.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But
yeah,
you know, she's obviously a person of color. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah,
he was going
yeah.
with. But I wanted to acknowledge, you know, that technically he was not correct on that. Okay, your response to that, Gil. Start
Well,
with you.
I mean, well, he's correct.
Yeah.
Now, how he managed to deliver that message in the midst of all of the cackling, I don't know, but it was great. I mean, I appreciated his answers for sure. And yeah, and one thing that he didn't mention, which I wish he had gotten to, was basically that, you know, most African Americans are in the middle class.
Yeah,
so it's
that's right.
So it's not what the image that they want to present is that, oh my gosh, there are a few Jackie Robinsons, but everybody else is shut out from playing ball in the economy. But that's just not how it works.
I thought he maintained his level of intellect amongst them. It was an awkward situation. And what happened at the end? Did the producer come on and say, hey, we got to go to commercials?
It was one of the stagehands, yes, which I'll get to that in just a second.
Gee.
Okay, so here's the thing in question that made all the headlines right here. So they're arguing with him over his positions, basically.
Right, yeah, of course.
And this is where the crowd, the audience, just kind of goes off on him. What they're talking about is the Disney situation, the left-wing Disney stuff, the indoctrination, the wokeness.
Going after the kids stuff.
And they're going, and they go after Ron DeSantis in particular, but really it's about Disney. So here's how that went.
No, but do you think Disney's radical left?
Well, I think Disney and Ronnie have been in a combat zone for a number of months over what I thought was the right issue as it relates to our young kids and what they're being indoctrinated with. I thought he started off on the right foot on that issue. It is 100%.
No, not here. I'm sorry, sir. Do not boo. This is The View.
Because Whoopi Goldberg has such moral indignation.
I mean,
oh, for crying out loud!
I guess I appreciate the her coming out on that, but I mean, the whole thing is dumb. I mean, her audience was primed to just like go after this guy because they primed them to go after this guy. So that's the problem.
And to what you were talking about a second ago, Stel, is that they would debate and argue, then he would be answering a question, and then like, oh, we got to go to break.
Yeah.
Which, okay, I've done television before. I've produced television before. I've been a television anchor before.
Yeah.
Sometimes on a live show, you're up against a break. So at one point,
That's true.
Whoopi Goldberg decided to embarrass him, told the stagehand, hey, you tell him, and pulled this kid up. It's like, sir, we have to go to a commercial break. And so they did that, it looks like, to embarrass him.
Oh,
is
absolutely.
what they were trying to do.
That's absolutely because you don't have to do that.
No, you don't. You just say, "Oh, live TV." The right.
Like, I'm
thing
sorry,
to do.
we got a hard break coming. I want you to finish your answer, but we got a hard break. I'm sorry, I got to go.
But Tim Scott was getting frustrated that he would get into his answer and he was starting to win, and they were like, "Oh, got to go to break." Well, if you filibuster your question and your argument long enough, you're going to get to the break.
You force it, yeah.
Oh, exactly. All right, let's see. We got time. Let's talk to Steve here real quick. Yeah, we got a few minutes here. Hey, Steve, you're on News Talk STL. What was your take on Tim Scott's combat with the ladies? But should conservatives even bother going on these shows?
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I've seen this cycle play out many times. I was one of the people back when John McCain was being lauded by the press during his presidential run before he was nominated. I predicted exactly what would happen. I could see the trap he was falling into, as well as a lot of other conservatives. So I would say in limited cases it's possible, but I think there's some criteria that should be adhered to or followed. One, only if it's somebody who is emotionally and intellectually equipped to handle that kind of a hostile environment. If you're a hothead, if you tend to fly off the cuff, a loose cannon, I'd say no, stay away, stay clear. I think they have to understand they're going to be interviewed. They're not going to be debated. They don't need to try to be liked by someone or win them over. They have to kind of understand the environment they're going into. And then I'd say they should also try to avoid, if they can, recorded type interviews such as 60 Minutes, where they can go in and edit your comments, take 30 minutes of comments and edit it down to 2 or 3 nasty-sounding sound bites, try to stick with a format that's more live where they can't do that. And I'd say last but not least would be prepared. Sit down and watch several episodes of The View or whatever with conservative guests. See how they treat them. See what kind of tactics are employed.
Okay, Steve, I just got a couple minutes left. Let's respond to what you just said. Hey, because you brought up some really good points. And let's respond to that before we get to the next break, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. All right. Tim Scott, I think, does have the right personality for that, without a doubt here. But let's also look at, for instance, in concept, I understand the argument that says we should take our case to unfriendly territory like this.
Right.
Let's go back years and years ago, right here in St. Louis. Todd Aiken goes on Charles Jaco's show. Charles Jaco is an unhinged extreme leftist, and look what happened to Todd Aiken's campaign, in large part because he went into that sort of environment. You know, it's easier to bring liberals onto conservative media.
Oh, yeah.
Because I can guarantee you, a liberal comes on this show, and they've been invited many times, they're not going to be treated like that.
Right.
But going on to the liberal shows, it's good cred for somebody like Tim Scott, because right now all the Republican voters are talking about Tim Scott facing down The View.
Yeah, I will say this. Tim Scott was trending on Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what the whole purpose of this was to get him trending, get his name out there, get all the clips going. There were lots of conservatives who were saying, like, hey, look at him, absolutely body this whole panel of cackling witches. So, I mean, honestly, those are the things you want. And in general, you're not going to change any minds here, but occasionally there are people watching. There are people who are, they don't watch The View, but they might catch this on a friend's Twitter feed or something, and they'll see the juxtaposition of the conservative versus the liberal, and they're like, wow, those liberals are kind of mean and dumb, and this conservative guy is spitting facts.
Yeah, so still, to Steve's point that he just made a second ago, you've got to have the right temperament to do that and the right preparation to do that. So if Tim Scott is correct in his answers, which I think he was.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, I agree with Tim Scott on a whole lot of stuff. Did it do him any good when you've got all the, to use Gabe's term, cackling witches just chirping it? Which, by the way, Joy Behar, the one who said that Tim Scott doesn't know what it's like to be black in America, she wasn't there on that.
I was mad about that.
Oh, man.
I thought in a very good way. I thought he handled himself very well. So despite all the stuff that went on, I thought he came out of it looking fine, despite the fact that the whole situation was pretty awkward.
Oh, yeah, which by design.
Oh, yeah.
By design. But the funny part is that the women on The View tried to present themselves as the intellectually superior combatants.
They did. As they always do, I think, when a conservative shows up on their show. Yeah. It's like, you couldn't tie this man's shoes.
314-912-1019. They'd be dazzled by all the sparkling colors of his socks because he's into the colorful sock thing.
Yeah.
All right, 314-912-1019. Got some thought on that. Love to hear it. Also, just how welcoming should you be to illegal immigrants in America? A major U.S. city is proving that the governors of Texas and Florida are absolutely right in their tactics dealing with illegals and with liberals at the same time. And what one mayor is arguing should happen will blow you away. We'll talk about that right around 6:35 on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Love will survive somehow, some way. One love feeds the fire.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
You know what's going on?
Have a great awakening.
You see through the smoke screen.
It's cool to be woke. News Talk STL.
Until it's not.
News, analysis, opinion. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 meteorologist Matt Chambers with your first alert forecast, an air quality alert day as smoky skies linger and ozone levels jump this afternoon. If you've got respiratory issues, it's a good idea to limit your outdoor exertion today. Otherwise, nice morning by June standards, and humidity stays low this afternoon. A dry day, but a warm one, a high at 89. Down into the mid-60s tonight before a backdoor cold front slides in Wednesday and brings a few showers and storms. Not a drought buster, unfortunately. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Hey folks, Tim Jones here. Excited to tell you about one of our newest clients. I've been a customer of them for years, Professional Irrigation Systems. If you're tired of dragging hoses around your yard to keep your grass alive every summer, now's the time to make your life easier. Residential irrigation installs in one day, custom designed for your property. They will enhance your curb appeal. They've also got landscape lightings, makes the architecture of your home stand out, making all your neighbors envious. Fertilization packages as well for all your lawn care needs and great financing options. ProIrrigation.com, 636-692-4441, ProIrrigation.com.
Hi, I'm Jen Wallner.
And I'm Rodney Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Rodney, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission rate?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
When's the best time to sell your home?
Right now. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
You should never strive to be happy because that's very elusive. What you should strive for is joy. And there's a difference. Joy is when you can have contentment in some really screwed up situations, or you can have it when things are going great. That's what you should always seek in life, is joy. Happiness is determined by circumstances.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL. St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
What can we do to drain the swamp?
Live and local.
At some point, do we just let the dumb ones weed themselves out? Our modern society has been keeping dumb people alive for a long time.
This is News Talk STL.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, the tactics to deal with illegal immigration of the tactics of Governors Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis are working. At least from a PR and a messaging standpoint. And I don't mean just getting conservatives fired up about this. It's exposing both the desperation and the radical mindset of the extreme left. I'm going to back that up with a soundbite from the mayor of New York City here in just a moment. 6:36 right now. I'm Mike Ferguson. Hey, don't forget, News Talk STL podcasts, on-demand listening. You listen to the shows whenever you want or you want to hear it again. Let me tell you where these are really, really, really handy. Like, for instance, we're going to be talking about the assault on the Second Amendment about 1 hour from right now with former Congressman Bob Barr, who is a member of the National Board of Directors of the NRA. Matter of fact, he's at the NRA's convention, or not convention, but their annual one of their meetings of the board of directors. And so we're going to get that update. Those podcasts, if you're subscribed to that, are so easy to forward on to your friends.
Yeah.
And forward on to the people who need the talking points when getting into discussions with liberals or just others who don't respect things like the Second Amendment. And so we have these conversations all the time. Or, for instance, this conversation we just had about Tim Scott, that's something that some of your friends want to hear.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to put that in your social media or just forward it on if you're subscribed, which is completely free. So wherever you get your podcast, just type in News Talk STL, and then you can subscribe right there and just get it sent right to your phone or laptop or desktop or whatever it is that you want. Okay, it is 6:37 right now. Okay. New York Mayor Eric Adams trying to spin their struggle with illegal immigrants in a positive way, but I don't think anybody's buying that. I don't even think the left is buying this.
Oh, no. I mean, especially voters in the areas and the districts in particular where some of these illegals are being put, they are livid.
Yes. As you know, illegals are being sent there from Texas and being sent there from Florida. It is a tiny, tiny fraction of the actual number of criminals, yes, I said it, who have crossed into our country illegally, and that they are criminals.
Yes.
By definition.
Yeah, when you break the law,
yes,
you're a criminal.
Okay, so here's the idea, because he was doing this big speech, press availability, all the people standing behind him looking very solemn, one of those things. And
yes, of course.
if I ever get roped into being one of those backdrop people, stand behind, I've done it one time and I'm like, never again. And that was live on C-SPAN, so dozens of people saw it.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Well,
almost dozens.
Almost dozens, yeah. Exactly. It was a Libertarian Party convention, so probably not.
Okay.
But he's talking about how they're dealing with the number of illegal immigrants, and I don't know how many thousands have been sent. It's been several thousand just dropped off in New York City, and they're struggling to deal with it. Now compare that to the millions that have come across the border and have flooded through, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and have made their way into Florida and Louisiana and places like that, Alabama. And it's what New York City and Chicago and places is what they're dealing with isn't even close to what these red states or purple states are dealing with. So here's just part of this speech that Mayor Eric Adams gave in New York yesterday.
It is my vision to take the next step to this, to go to the faith-based locales, and then move to private residence. There are residents who are suffering right now because of economic challenges. They have spare rooms, they have locales, and if we can find a way to get over the 30-day rule and other rules that government has in its place, we can take that $4.2 billion, 4.3 it may be now, that we potentially will have to spend, and we can put it back in the pockets of everyday New Yorkers, everyday houses of worship, instead of putting it in the pockets of corporations.
So once they run out of room in government facilities, including college dormitories, by the way, some of these illegals are being put into college dorms when the students are still there because it's summer session now. The regular year is out. But they want to put them in people's homes. Now, I want to be accurate here. They're not talking about forcing anybody to take somebody into their home at this point.
Right.
They're not saying, they're saying, oh, you've got an extra room. We will figure out a way to pay you X amount of dollars in order to house these illegal immigrants in your home. So first of all, good or bad idea. But second, is this preying on poor people who are desperate and saying, well, we'll give you X number of dollars a day if you house these complete strangers who have already criminally broken into the country and we don't know anything about them?
Yeah, absolutely a bad idea. Absolutely preying on people who are in need of money right now. Although I do wonder, how poor you are if you have an extra room in your, you know what I mean? It's like, because when I was poor, we were double and tripled up in rooms. Okay, so there was no room in the inn for extra people. So, but then again, that's neither here nor there. I think ultimately the issue is when you set yourself up as a sanctuary city and you actually have to start doing the sanctuary part, there's going to be a problem. And I think that's what they're experiencing right now.
I say let the people who want to be involved go ahead and do it, because I can think of folks here in St. Louis who would just love to say, hey, sure, we'll bring them into our house. Okay, well, then here's your opportunity in New York City. You mentioned the situation in New York City and Chicago. You've got illegal aliens in school gyms, grade school and high school gyms. You've got them at the police stations, and you've got them at O'Hare Airport. And that's just skimming the surface of the issues they're dealing with in Chicago. And these major cities really need to understand that this is getting totally out of control.
Yeah, by the way, the 30-day rule that Mayor Adams was talking about, that's a city law that requires a guest to be a resident for 30 days before they can legally become a tenant somewhere.
Right.
And he goes, we'll find a way around the rule. I mean, so that's
it's a dumb rule anyway.
It's a dumb rule, but yeah, exactly. But I look at this, and if it's voluntary, okay.
Sure,
I mean, it's voluntary. I get that. It is predatory, in my opinion, because let's be really honest. Somebody who lives in, what's a fancier area of New York City? I don't know.
Soho.
Somebody who lives in Soho, they're going to react the way the people at Martha's Vineyard did.
Oh yeah.
They're not going to want, this family of Mexicans or Venezuelans or Hondurans or whatever the case is. They're not going to want them in their area. They just want to virtue signal about how racist everybody else is. So send them over to some other part of New York City and virtue signal from there, and then just go on your Twitter talking about how racist others are, who won't take them.
People have done the man in the street type of deals there, where they pretend to be a canvasser. They've got a little petition, and they start with you think we should be a sanctuary city? Sign this to support being a sanctuary city thing, and they set that up. And then the next question is, would you like to sign up to be compensated to house one of these illegal aliens? And everybody has an excuse right after that, and they got to go, and I'm actually late. And, all of a sudden when it hits the fan, when you actually have skin in the game, everybody's, all about the not in my backyard, certainly not in my town, not in my house. So that's the way it works, though, in the larger scheme. And for some reason, they don't put it together. It's like, the same way you don't want these people in your neighborhood and in your house, we shouldn't want them in the country.
Yeah, and even if you say, but we do want them in the country, okay, that's fine. I got no issue with it, provided they go through the legal process and respect our country and our laws enough to do that.
Oh, yeah, by them, I mean illegal.
Illegals, yeah, illegal. Immigration is good for the country.
Yes.
Legal immigration is good for the country. Let me clarify. Illegal immigration is bad for the country.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and the thing is, legal immigrants tend to arrange for their own housing.
Yeah.
They tend to arrange for their own fancy that. Because they're doing things legally. They're not just running through the woods essentially and just showing up and say, "Hey, government, take care of me." Legal immigrants actually make plans to go work, live, and pay taxes in the new place, and sometimes they actually become a citizen. And most of the time, they're just going to be a good contributing person in your community. That's how that works. That's how it's supposed to work. But for some reason, we got this bass backwards.
So, Stel, what we've got here is, and I want to end where we started with this, unless somebody's got some thoughts. 314-912-1019, and that is that. Governor Abbott in Texas, Governor DeSantis in Florida, and this isn't about his presidential campaign, this is about his governorship. The fact that they have just said, all right, the Biden administration wants to put them on buses and planes and drop them off wherever they want. We're going to do the same thing, and putting them right in the media hotspots in these big cities, watching these massive major cities around the country cry uncle and take a knee because they can't handle thousands, whereas their states are dealing with millions.
I say go for it. Just keep doing it, because it's really shining the light on an issue that I've had a problem with since this administration came in, because the border situation is now there are no borders. And that's what globalists want. You don't want borders. You may look at the United States of America, but there is no border at the south. And now we've got issues at the northern border. And it's as though they just want to wipe out borders. They want to wipe out city lines, everything getting wiped out. And I look at Europe, same situation in Europe. You had folks streaming through Greece, going through the islands there, and then going into Germany, France, Belgium, etc. And the issues that they've had to deal with in Great Britain, they don't want borders anywhere.
314-912-1019, because you know what borders mean? Sovereignty.
Yes, exactly.
And there's the problem.
There it is. And this is, by the way, one of the reasons that I couldn't stay involved with the libertarian movement is because where libertarians are right, they're really, really, really right. Where they are wrong, they are really, really, really wrong. And immigration and borders, which I've heard, this isn't reflective of all libertarians, but I've heard a number of libertarians like, those are just man-made lines drawn on a map. No, that's national sovereignty.
It's important stuff right there.
That is important stuff right there. All right, 314-912-1019. Do you know how many mishaps you survive every year?
Probably many, many.
I'm going to tell you.
Oh, okay.
Right around 650. Okay, minor mishaps. But we all do them.
Okay.
We cause most of them ourselves. I'll tell you about that right around 650 on 1019-94.1 News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. News, analysis, opinion.
Our great American comeback starts by sending Joe Biden back to his basement in Delaware.
This is News Talk STL.
You could take the 5 worst presidents, they would not have done the damage Joe Biden has done.
12 million new jobs, more jobs in 2 years than any president created in a 4-year term.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL and newstalkstl.com.
Thanks for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Radio news junkie. Love every bit about it.
News Talk STL.
All right. We're not getting a lot of storms right now, but if you're one of the 70,000 Window World customers around St. Louis, you don't have to worry about it when those storms do come in, at least when it comes to your windows, because those windows are so freaking strong, it's going to withstand anything. And if by chance there's something strong enough to even crack one of their windows, which probably isn't going to happen, they're going to come out and replace it at no cost to you. Mike Ferguson here for my friends at Window World. They are simply the best for less. That is not just a catchy catchphrase. That is actually the truth. Give them a call, 314-993-1800. They have been doing business here in St. Louis for over 20 years, over 70,000 customers, like I just said, and every one of those windows is covered by that lifetime warranty. Here's why I keep harping on that lifetime warranty. You've got a company here that is so confident in their product that they are willing to say decades down the road, if something goes wrong with that, they will replace it at no cost to you. They don't have a chart that says, okay, it's gonna prorate out after so many years. You got to buy another one. So many products these days have what's called planned obsolescence, which means we want you to buy it and then we want it to fail so that you'll come back and buy another one. Window World says we want you to buy it. We want it to do what we promised, and then you never have to buy another window ever again from us until you decide to change out your other windows or build another house or get something in the office, because they do the job. And the interesting thing to me when I was hanging out with them, it's probably been a month or so, I was over at their offices in Earth City, and they don't want their windows to go bad, and they're never going to. But let's say there's a mishap, something happens and a window breaks. They actually love showing and proving that they back up their word. And you can go to the Better Business Bureau now. You can go to Yelp. You can go to all those reviews, and you can see what people say about Window World. Hundreds of reviews. And what they say is that Window World keeps their promises. So give them a call, 314-993-1800. Your friends and neighbors at Window World are going to pick up the phone in Earth City, right there off I-70. That's where their offices are. So give them a call. 18 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. They will come out, take the measurements. These are all custom. They will show you the product, and if you want, you can stand on the windows themselves, and it's not going to break. You are going to see what double strength glass really looks like and really means. And by the way, it's going to make your home more energy efficient anyway. So save money on the front end, save money on the back end. Don't worry about having to replace it later on. 314-993-1800, windowworld.com. Once again, let me give you that number again. This is the preferred window of the St. Louis Blues. Remember, 314-993-1800.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Tony Colombo here for Cadre Asset Management. A cadre is defined as a small group of people specially trained for a particular purpose or profession, and that is the role that Cadre Asset Management can play in your financial journey. Learn more about how they can help secure your financial future by following Cadre Asset Management on Facebook, or just go to cadreassetmgmt.com.
Cadre Asset Management is a Missouri-based independent advisory firm licensed under and securities and investment advisory services offered through Founders Financial Securities, LLC, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
St. Louis, it's Joe Pags. Proud to be part of the News Talk STL lineup. Every weeknight from 7 to 10, we'll get together to talk about what's going on. News, analysis, opinion. You won't hear anything like it in St. Louis. The Joe Pags Show, every weeknight at 7 on News Talk STL. Welcome home.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the Morning here on News Talk STL.
Okay, dozens of times a year, you are the victim of a minor mishap, and it's usually caused by you. According to a new survey.
It's your fault. Dang it.
Yep, and my fault too. All right, 6:53 right now. I'm Mike Ferguson. Got Gabe here. Got Stell here. I'll give you some examples in just a minute. Let's talk presidential politics at 7:05. There are candidates just popping up everywhere. Some of the campaigns are more serious than others, but we'll give you the update both on the Republican side and on the far extreme left as well. Very, very big name that you probably know, announced that he's running for president on a completely nonsensical route. Also, okay, Father's Day coming up here in what, just a week or so? 2 weeks? Not even that. We're teaming up with Blust Jewelers once again, like we did with Mother's Day, and we're going to give away a $500 gift certificate to Blust Jewelers. BlustJewelers.com if you want to learn more about them, and I hope that you do. But go to newstalkstl.com and give us your best dad joke. And we're just going to randomly pick one, and somebody's going to get a $500 gift certificate, like I said, to Blust Jewelers. So newstalkstl.com, and you can, we're going to have that same gallery, that same wall, this time of all the dad jokes, so feel free to steal them. It's going to be a lot of fun, so go ahead and get that in there. Okay, there is a new study, and this is from Study Finds, the website Study Finds.
Okay.
And they say we deal with 84 minor mishaps every single year.
84.
That's our average. We deal with 84 minor mishaps. So minor mishaps are those things that cause inconveniences or just a lot of embarrassment. Here are a few examples. If you can, anything you think of, like the things that just cause awkward situations or embarrassments or just inconveniences that we do absent-mindedly.
Oh gosh. I don't know. I try to cover them up so fast that maybe I don't notice.
How about this? The number 5 one on the list is trying to unlock your car and open your car and then realizing it's not your car.
Oh yeah. I've done that.
Yeah.
For me, that might be closer to number 1.
Happens more often than not.
Yes.
I abuse the key fob now. And so if I'm walking, because
as you're approaching, you're doing the little, yep.
I'll hit the lock button, even though it's already locked, just to get it to beep at me, just so I don't do this again, because I've done it before.
I do that to find my car.
There you go.
Because sometimes I often park in very large lots with a lot of cars, and sometimes depending on what time you get in, depends on what spot you get. So sometimes you'll have a usual spot, so it's easy muscle memory, and then but if it's somewhere else, I'm lost.
Let me tell you my quick bizarre story. At our previous employer in the garage, I walked out after my shift. There was literally a car that looked exactly like mine. My key fob opened that car door.
What?
And I got in, and I'm looking around thinking, I don't remember leaving all this stuff all over here. This is really weird.
It's like
my
car got really
Taco
messy.
Bell stuff on the floor. I didn't go to Taco Bell. And it took me about 30 seconds to realize I'm in someone else's car.
That's amazing.
Stell, did you just admit that you broke into somebody's car?
And no alarms, no nothing. My key fob just opened it right up.
Oh, wow.
That is wild.
Lights came on, the whole bit.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Talk about awkward.
It was.
Man, that's a new one.
That's a topper.
Yeah, it is. How about this? How about number 4, your phone going off when you thought it was on silent?
Oh, yeah.
I have seen this in so many different places.
Well, here's the thing. I go to church every Sunday.
That's where I've seen it.
So somebody's phone is going to have some weird song come out in the middle of like the quietest part of our services.
Snoop Dogg comes on.
Somebody's prayer, and all of a sudden, Taylor Swift is belting something from the back of the church. Yeah.
I don't do this very often, but getting on like the wrong public transportation, train or bus, I guess it can happen. You can't get on the wrong plane anymore.
No, yeah. I've fallen asleep and woken up past my place. Yeah.
Here's the one I do all the time: saying hi to somebody you thought you knew, but it was a complete stranger. It's like, I do that all the time.
Is it worse to say hi and they don't say hi back?
Yeah, they look at you like, "Why are you greeting me?"
Even if it's somebody you know.
Yeah, it's like, I know you. I don't like you.
What the heck,
Stop
Mike?
talking to me.
To have a roof over your head, a nice roof over your head, is very important.
That's Rick talking about his experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago, and they're very cooperative on getting us the right paint. They were in and out and done in no time. Once it was finished, looked great. We were very happy with it.
The main reason Rick called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty.
We've watched a lot of people get their house painted 3 or 4 times, and we haven't had to do any of it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to paint it every 5-7 years.
Take a tip from Rick and put down the paintbrush and call Rhino Shield for your free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago. Financially makes sense, especially if it's going to last like this did. Still looks great.
Call now. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
iHelp is the immigrant home English learning program here in St. Louis that helps empower immigrant families by providing individualized, in-home English language education and tools for the effective navigation of our community. iHelp connects volunteer teachers with adult immigrant and refugee learners in our community to develop English and life skills. To learn more or to volunteer as a tutor, visit ihelpstl.org. That's ihelpstl.org.
Classic Kicks Country is streaming now. Hear all your new country favorites from the 90s.
I should have been a cowboy.
Streaming as it happened in the 90s. Classic Kicks.
Let's go, girls.
Download the Classic Kicks app from the App Store. Online at ClassicKicks.com.
I'll go back.
Or enable the Classic Kicks skill on Alexa.
I love this station.
90s new country streaming now.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. The wall of a major dam in Russian-controlled southern Ukraine has collapsed. There's flooding, and Europe's largest nuclear power plant is at threat. Both sides in the war are rushing to evacuate residents while blaming each other for the crisis.
Video sent to the BBC by a local resident show the Dnipro River flowing fast, but it's not yet clear how bad the flooding is or will be. There are other dangers too. The dam at Novokakhovka holds back a vast reservoir, which provides cooling water for the Zaporizhia nuclear plant.
The BBC's Paul Adams. The Republican chair of the House Oversight Committee is advancing plans to potentially hold FBI Director Christopher Wray in contempt of Congress for Wray's refusal to hand over a subpoenaed document dealing with the Biden family's business affairs.
Chairman Comer said the panel would start contempt of Congress hearings despite viewing and being briefed Monday by Bureau officials on the subpoena document.
We will now initiate contempt of Congress hearings this Thursday.
Comer also said the FBI has not refuted the allegations.
FBI officials confirmed that the unclassified FBI-generated record has not been disproven.
The chairman noted that the confidential informant who provided the information is a credible source.
The confidential human source who provided information about then Vice President Biden being involved in a criminal bribery scheme is a trusted, highly credible informant.
Edwin Mora, Capitol Hill.
Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie set to launch his bid for the Republican presidential nomination. It'll happen at a town hall in New Hampshire this evening. World War II veterans, officials, and visitors commemorating D-Day on the beaches of Normandy, honoring those who fought for freedom in the largest naval, air, and land operation in history, the 79th anniversary of D-Day. Wall Street now features down 28 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Dennis Prager here. Sue and I mean it when we say dogs are part of our family, and there's nothing like their loyal companionship. So we provide them with Rough Greens, R-U-F-F, because we want them to feel healthy and be with us as long as possible. I know Charlie Kirk feels the same way.
The Pragers and I couldn't agree more. I rely on my trusted furry friend, Mr. Briggs, who's an absolute machine, and he relies on me to provide what's best for him. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black has packed Rough Greens, not a dog food, but a supplement full of vitamins, minerals, digestive enzymes, and omega oils that Mr. Briggs absolutely needs and loves. Trying Rough Greens for your dog just makes sense.
Greetings, naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black here. I'm honored that the Pragers and Charlie trust their dog's health to Rough Green. I'm so confident that Rough Green can help your dog too that I'm offering you a free Jumpstart trial bag. Just cover the shipping. Yes, dog food is dead food, but it doesn't have to be. Go to ruffgreens.com. Bible.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 meteorologist Matt Chambers with your first alert forecast, an air quality alert day as smoky skies linger and ozone levels jump this afternoon. If you've got respiratory issues, it's a good idea to limit your outdoor exertion today. Otherwise, nice morning by June standards, and humidity stays low this afternoon. A dry day, but a warm one, a high at 89. Down into the mid-60s tonight before a backdoor cold front slides in Wednesday and brings a few showers and storms. Not a drought buster, unfortunately. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo for the cleaning pros at Zero Res. The team at Zero Res has rescued our home many times over the years, and right now they have an amazing summer offer you don't want to miss. Book a cleaning now for your home or business, and you'll get 20% off all services. Just mention the Colombo special, and whether it's carpets, tile, rugs, upholstery, or air ducts, you'll get their best in the business cleaning for 20% off. Call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com. Spell it forwards or backwards, it spells the same, Zero Res.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Mike Ferguson.
You play ball like a girl!
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I triple dog dare you!
Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice, drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
All right, watch your step. There are politicians running for president everywhere. If you're not careful, you're going to step in a campaign.
Easy.
This is what happens when I don't get enough sleep.
Get some on your shoe.
Yeah. All right. 7:05. Were you around politicians again?
Oh man, I got campaign on my shoe.
Just wipe that on the side. Okay.
Yeah, just scrape on the side. Find me a puddle. Do my little swish move.
That's right. I got Gabe Pfeiffer here. I got Stel Puntakis here. My name is Mike Ferguson. By the way, okay, Missouri's about to conduct another execution. I'm going to tell you the story. You tell me if this is justice, okay? 7:20. And I know there are people who say, okay, this is the third one this year for Missouri. Why are we paying attention to it? Listen, the use of capital punishment, the use of executions, is the ultimate power of the state. The ultimate power of the state.
Yes. In order to be able to deprive somebody of their life,
yes,
that is absolutely the biggest thing that a state could do.
That is government power at its most extreme.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go over the situation, and you may very well hear this case and go, yeah, that's justice. But we always should ask the question every time that it happens, because this is way too big or too important. I don't care if you're liberal or conservative or somewhere else. I'm going to spotlight this when it happens. And listen, we may all agree, yep, this is justice. This is a good decision. But I think it is morally incumbent upon us to ask the question every time the state takes a life.
Yes.
Like this.
Yes.
All right. 7:20. We'll talk about that. It is 7:07 right now. Okay, so I told you yesterday that this is going to be a busy week when it comes to the race for president. Part of that, not all of it, but part of it is getting into a little bit of kooky season, which we're going to get to in a minute, including a very well-known socialist who says he's running, and I'm going to offend some people by calling an academic and a scholar part of the kooky season, but that's actually happening. Okay, so there's another emerging, I guess a possible emerging trend from the Republican candidates that we're going to get to in a moment. And so be ready to answer this question, guys, and to everybody who's listening as well, 314-912-1019. The question that's being raised is, can Donald Trump win the 2024 general election? We know that he can win the nomination. There's no question that he can win the nomination, and he's favored to win the nomination. But some of the candidates, and I think you're going to start seeing others bring up the question, can he win in the general election? So be ready to talk about that. Okay, Mike Pence is filed his paperwork to run for president. He is a candidate. He's making his announcement tomorrow. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum is expected to announce tomorrow. Chris Christie is expected to announce today or tomorrow. He's got a town hall event, I think, scheduled. Then he's going to be on with Brett Baer tomorrow. So at some point in the next 36 hours, Chris Christie is going to formally announce his campaign. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu confirms that he's not running. He reiterates that.
Oh, okay.
Because last week somebody's like, oh, he could be running, and he'd already said he wasn't.
Yeah.
So I was a little confused by that, but he says no. When I said I'm not running, means I'm not running.
Okay.
Okay, so how about this? We'll start with you, get a reaction. You, Gabe, then Stell. I'm curious what you think. Both Republicans and Democrats get mad at him from time to time, but is there a market for a moderate, one of the few moderates left in the race for the White House? Let's go to Bob Agnew.
Manchin sidestepped the question from Fox News when first asked about a possible run for the White House in 2024, but did praise the group that's been pushing for a third-party candidate. He said the group No Labels has been pushing hard for centrists and for what he calls common sense. Manchin took aim at what he calls extremists from both the right and left, but when asked repeatedly about his own possible run, he told Fox, quote, not ruling anything in, not ruling anything out. Bob Agnew reporting.
So here's the situation in West Virginia. That's Bob Agnew from townhall.com. Like you said, Joe Manchin is, it looks like he is not going to win re-election. Now, we're a year away, so anything can change and anything can happen, but it's not looking good for him right now. And so he's being pushed, saying, run an independent, or a third-party campaign, and then give people an alternative. Now, if the Democrats ran Joe Manchin, he appeals to the middle in a huge way.
Yes, absolutely.
He is a candidate who could win, even though a lot of people are laughing at me for saying that, because I'm looking at the actual political science, where you've got a guy who's not an extremist on the left. He's a center-left guy, but he's against the extreme environmentalist agenda. He is somebody who's more of an old-school kind of blue-collar Democrat, and the Democrats are not smart enough to run somebody like that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the question on the minds of any primary voter is usually, yes, they hold to the various views, or how well they hold to the various views that we have on our side, but also how much do they appeal to the people who in the middle, who aren't particularly affiliated with either side, who are going to turn the election. And for the Democrat side, I mean, what's been happening is the far left has been running the agenda in terms of who gets nominated with the D after their name, and then the center left part of the country just kind of says, well, okay, I guess. And that's kind of how that's been going. Now, if they ran somebody like Manchin, you basically, he'd have trouble in the primary, but he would pretty much sweep a national level, type of election, because of all of the people in the middle who would see him as the reasonable alternative to the extremes, or at least, people are cast as extreme on the right, and the actual extremes on the left.
Okay, Stel.
I got to say, a lot of it depends on how many folks are actually waking up to what's going on in this country. And if you're going to say whether Trump can actually win in the general election, then I'm saying he's the only one, I believe, who can stand up to the radical left. And are there enough folks in this country who are willing to support someone who will actually confront the radical left on so many issues that we're dealing with?
Okay.
And I'm not sure.
We'll get to the Trump thing in a minute. What about Joe Manchin?
Oh, Joe Manchin. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to digress there. Save your money, Joe.
Oh, yeah. running an independent or third-party campaign is a fool's errand.
Well, yes.
Without a doubt. Unless winning is not your goal. I mean, if winning is your goal, that is a fool's errand. And speaking of a fool's errand, you saw the news overnight, Cornel West says he's running.
I saw that.
Cornel West. So first of all, Saturday Night Live's going to have a heyday with this.
Oh my gosh. Well, they should.
Yeah.
Whether or not they do depends on how commie their producers are.
See, I'm glad you said that because, even mainstream media refers to him as, a far left or a progressive or even a socialist. I saw several articles about this referring to him as a socialist.
Yeah.
He's damn near communist.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, he just really is. He's running on the People's Party, and I don't know how many states they're on the ballot. Third parties, very, very few, have 50-state ballot access.
Right.
That's one of the things. I mean, the Libertarian Party and the Green Party are the two that likely have the most. There's one called the Constitution Party that has some. There may even be a Reform Party, ballot access. But for the most part, you can't even be on the ballot in all the states. And part of their platform, which I'm looking at right now, free health care for every single person, free housing, free everything. It's just a socialist party is what it is.
I don't watch CNN at all. Does he still show up a lot on CNN? I wonder.
As a contributor?
Not as much as he used to.
Okay.
But occasionally, he's out there. So he's more likely to be on like book notes on C-SPAN or something like that. But he's very well known.
Oh, sure.
Now, is he going to be any threat to cost the Democrats the election? No.
Nah.
Could he, one, pull Joe Biden farther to the left? Maybe. Could he give Joe Biden cover with more moderate voters because, hey, by comparison, you're not a communist.
That's a
like
good
this
point.
guy.
That's a good
so
point.
I don't know what the effect will be. Probably very little. I think it's going to be another one of those cases where, and I say this lightly because I am married to an academic, that academics are going to find that he's just not as influential as they like to think that he is.
Oh, absolutely. I think they like to talk about him. They like to talk with him because it's stimulating. But it's like that's not how politics works. It's not about how much stimulation you get from the conversation with the far left extremists. No.
Yeah. Okay, let me go to this other question that we just talked about a second ago. You're seeing this as kind of a trend, I guess, a little bit with some of the Republican candidates, and that is whether or not Donald Trump could win in the general election. Okay, so two back-to-back sound bites here. We've got Asa Hutchinson, who otherwise is just completely irrelevant to the race at this point. He was on Fox Business Mornings with Maria.
You make your case that he can't win in a November election. He's not best positioned to win against Joe Biden. We're looking for new voices for America, new ideas for our future.
And here's Nikki Haley, who was on Fox and Friends.
I think it's really important that we go and we take the policies that President Trump had, but we do it with a different approach. And that different approach has to appeal to more Americans, and it has to be someone who can actually win a general election.
Initial thoughts, Gabe?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's how I think about everything in terms of primaries is, I pull out my Venn diagram again and I say, okay, who embodies all the things or most of the things that I want to agree with, and then who can win?
Yeah.
It's kind of how I decided what to do with my life. What am I good at? What do I want to do? And what makes money? And then I tried to find the middle of the circle. And luckily my circles intersected a lot.
Okay, so let me ask you this, though. Is it a fair or reasonable question to question whether or not Donald Trump can win in the general election? We know he can win the nomination.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, the thing is, we've got two elections to look at to see how he would do with the general public. One of them he won. One of them he didn't. So then we compare that to what the electorate looks like right now, what they're thinking, what they're going through, what's on their mind. And I think because of the turn towards wanting normalcy and the perception that a Trump presidency would not be a return to normalcy, I think a good portion of the middle voter, though not the primary voter, but the middle voters, are not really going to want to turn out. Now, I don't think they'll vote against him. I don't think they'll vote for Biden. I think we basically have a dueling turnout battle of the opposite direction. It's not so much getting people out, it's just people staying home who are going to turn the election one way or the other. I don't think they turn out for Trump.
Reasonable question to ask still?
I think it's reasonable to ask, but how many folks are able to separate the personality of Trump from his policies? We seem to forget what went on with the economic engine that was in gear for those first 3 years of his former tenure, and I hope enough people really understand that we've got a serious situation in this country, and I believe he's the only one who can stand up against the liberal left.
Yeah, I think other Republicans can and would do it as well. So, I mean, I disagree with that.
Okay.
Asking people to separate the person from the policy, that's reasonable too. I just don't know how many voters are reasonable in the middle, outside of their policy. 314-912-1019. This is a question that's going to come up again and again and again. This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. The latest news.
That laptop was real. The information on there was real. Every major news outlet and Facebook and Twitter refused to allow it to be disseminated or discussed.
The news you need to know.
The radical left is pushing us into a culture of grievance instead of a culture of greatness.
And the place to talk about it.
And it's a happy day when I can hear real talk on News Talk STL.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
You get the point with this? Like, they've done this before?
Bongino.
We had the IRS targeting case where they actually admitted to it. I love when lefties try to pretend that didn't happen. The targeting of the Tea Party and conservative groups.
Weekdays at 11 on News Talk STL.
Father's Day is coming up, but fact of the matter is that a lot of guys don't want another necklace or any necklace or not even a ring or so. But you know what they do love? They do love a nice watch, or what they really like is that watch that they were given. And sometimes those things just need cleaned and those things need repaired and they need to be put back in working order. And that is really hard to do unless you have an expert doing that. That is one of the services that my friends at Blust Jewelers offer. You can learn more at blustjewelers.com. Mike Ferguson here for Blust Jewelers. It's funny, when I started working with Blust Jewelers, my wife kind of got excited. She's like, hey, when are we going to Blust Jewelers? I'm like, well, as soon as you get back from your trip, I'm happy to take you over to Blust Jewelers. And I don't worry about it because they've got beautiful jewelry that fits my budget, your budget, everybody's budget, whether your budget is more than mine or less than mine. It's probably more than mine. But they have a great selection at every different price point. I was just walking around their store. In between times, I was giving Elliot, the store dog, little scritches on the ears because he is really cool. But I'm looking around and I'm really amazed. I mean, here they are in Creve Coeur. I mean, just off of Olive Boulevard, a little bit west of 270. And I'm looking at this store that's not massive. What they have is quality everywhere you look. And what you also have are experts there. Ramona, she owns the store, and she does a great job. And one of the most impactful things that she told me once is she goes, I'm just a bad salesperson. I just don't like trying to pressure people into sales. It's just not my thing. But she's so passionate about jewelry and this particular industry that she is an excellent consultant, and she's not going to try to talk you up into something you can't afford. She doesn't want to do that. She wants you to be happy with what you leave with, and that's what her entire staff is all about. So go to blustjewelers.com. If you want to find them, it's actually really easy. They're in the same parking lot as the Schnucks there off Olive Boulevard. So you go 270 and then you go west on 270 past the hospitals and you're finding Schnucks right there. Same parking lot. It's really easy to find them out there. So they offer the finest in jewelry repair, watch repair, on-site watch battery replacement, and they will have your watch and your jewelry looking good and operating good as new. And by the way, they have some jewelry there that is one of a kind to them, and they understand every aspect of how this is done. It is quality. If you're giving a memento, you're giving a gift, you're giving something that's going to become that heirloom in your family. You want it done right, and you want to buy it from people who, first of all, have been right around St. Louis. Blust Jewelers has been around St. Louis for over 100 years, since 1915. And what you want are people who are passionate about this and who are going to get you the right thing. Listen, you can go to a department store, you can buy something with inferior quality, and you're probably going to end up buying it from somebody who normally works in the clothing department or the shoe department, but they had to go over and cover the jewelry counter, and they go, yeah, that looks nice. They don't know what they're talking about. And then later on, you're going to find out that's really not what we wanted. So regardless of what you need with jewelry, because this is something special, this is something for your family, this is something for your mate, This is something for your children. You want to make sure that you do it right, and Blust Jewelers has been doing it right since 1915. BlustJewelers.com. They're about to open up in De Pere as well, in addition to where they are right now in Creve Coeur. So go check them out just off Olive Boulevard. Tell them that I said hi and give Elliot a pat on the head.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
Fox News commentary.
A federal judge declared our Tennessee law protecting minors from sexually explicit drag shows to be unconstitutional, and surprise, surprise, liberals and perverts everywhere are celebrating. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
For the sexualization and grooming of children, a U.S. district judge struck down our Tennessee law preventing and protecting children from being exposed to sexually explicit performances such as drag shows. This judge, Thomas Parker, claims the law to be unconstitutionally vague and substantially overbroad and encourages discriminatory enforcement. I'm a free speech advocate too, but not when it comes to exposing kids to perverted and sexually provocative so-called art forms. And I'm perplexed as to why liberals so forcefully, so viciously, so proudly support grown men dressed as women sexy dancing in front of kids. What is the justification for that? Well, stay tuned. This legal battle is far from over and will likely make its way all the way up to the Supreme Court. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
This is 101.9 and 94.1.
Female millennial Trump supporter. I listen to it like every day. Like, seriously, you get it.
News Talk STL.
Hey, this is Larry Connors. Make sure you're listening later today at 6 o'clock on News Talk STL for my show, Larry Connors USA. Now, back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Another execution in Missouri. Is this justice? So, guys, I'm going to get your take on that.
Always a question you got to ask.
We should. Even if it looks like a clear-cut case, we should always ask that question, because it is too important. It's not about the guy in this case. It is about the power of the state government. We should always, if we say we are small government conservatives, or those of us who have a libertarian bent to us, every time there's an execution scheduled, we should be questioning it. Now, we may come to the conclusion that it is justified, but we should be questioning it. 314-912-1019. By the way, your Second Amendment rights are under threat again all over the country, by the way, including in the city of St. Louis. So you live in the city of St. Louis or you drive to the city of St. Louis, they are working on an effort to take away some of your Second Amendment rights, at least until it's challenged. Illinois, friends? Oh, man. All right, former Congressman Bob Barr is going to be with us at 7:35. He's actually in Virginia right now, or at least he was supposed to be. I think that's where he is, at the NRA's Board of Directors meeting. And he's a part of the National Board of Directors for the NRA. So we're going to talk to him in about 9 minutes here on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Okay, on Monday, Governor Mike Parson declined clemency for a man who is scheduled to be put to death today. Here's what happened. 42-year-old Michael Tessius he was convicted of killing 2 guards at the Randolph County Jail in 2020. So he was being held there for some misdemeanor thing. He's let out, and he comes back with a loaded gun, and he says, I'm giving some cigarettes to my buddy. I'm just bringing him in so you can give them to him. Then he shoots the 2 guards who were there. And by the way, county jails and city jails are very, very different things than prisons when it comes to security and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he goes in to unlock the cell to let his buddy out. Can't figure out the door. one of the guards wasn't dead yet, and like basically made his way over to grab him, and he not emptied, but he shot more shots into him to make sure that he was dead. So here's what the defense is saying. He was only 19 at the time that he committed this. You ever notice how this creeps up a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
It's like, oh, yeah.
he was only 19. You should take that into consideration. He was only 19.
So?
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Look,
Yeah.
if you're 16, you know you just killed somebody.
Yes, that doesn't change the morality or the ethics of it, but we don't declare 16-year-olds competent to make all their decisions or suffer all the consequences
Now,
for it.
I would say a 16-year-old shouldn't be eligible for the death penalty.
Okay, there you go.
That's different.
Yeah, but locking him up for years and years,
Oh,
the
yeah.
idea that do it now, I'll be out in a year and a half anyway when I'm 18. No, that shouldn't.
yeah.
No. But he was 19. He was of age of majority.
Yes.
But they're saying he was only 19.
Yeah, no. That only and then insert age goes away at 18. That's how that works.
Yes, I agree. He had a bad childhood.
So, lots of people had bad childhood.
Yeah.
They don't go out and kill people.
Yeah, that's my take on it as well. You know, apparently he had a very neglectful childhood.
Sure.
That's one of the arguments. Now, and I don't even fault the defense for arguing because they're trying to save the guy's life. They're doing their job. That's what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, vigorous defense is a constitutional right.
Yeah. And so I'm reading the article that was written about this, and it says Tacius has at least one pending court appeal. His appeals and his clemency request have focused on several issues. Among them, Tacius was just 19 at the time of the killings. He had been neglected as a child. Now, this one's interesting. A juror in his 2010 resentencing appears to have been illiterate.
What?
Illiterate.
What?
And it's actually against the law in Missouri to have an illiterate juror.
Yeah, you can't do that.
That's right. But they're saying that he was illiterate. So at one point, his appeal was upheld, then it was appealed, and then they said, no, that was the right decision.
Sure.
And they put him back. So I
Okay.
thought that was interesting.
I mean, that's an interesting little wrinkle. I mean,
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. And so the U.S. Supreme Court declined to halt the execution based on the age argument when the crime occurred. A federal judge last week stayed the execution over the claim that the juror was illiterate, but the appeals court then reinstated it, and the
Right.
Supreme Court has not ruled on the illiteracy of the juror issue on there. I don't know how you get an illiterate person into a jury.
Yeah, that whole process had failed if you managed to let that happen.
Yeah. Now, the other argument that they're making is that, well, he didn't actually plan to kill them. He just wanted to corral them and force them into a cell to let his buddy out. He didn't actually mean to shoot them. He didn't actually want to kill them. So then take the bullets out of the gun.
Yeah, I don't get the whole.
Yeah.
No. If you come ready to kill somebody, and you actually kill somebody, you were planning on killing somebody.
Exactly. So what they're arguing is, well, he brought the gun, but he didn't plan to kill them. It just went bad, and some bad things happened. So what they're trying to argue is that under the capital punishment standard, that it wasn't premeditated.
Right. Yeah.
But I agree with you, Gabe, in that he got a gun, he found the bullets, he put the bullets in the gun, he pointed it at a person,
and he pulled the trigger.
And he pulled the trigger, and he pointed it at another person, and he pulled the trigger. And then when the one person wasn't dead enough, he pulled the trigger again and again.
Yeah.
When it happened.
Yeah.
So yeah,
he had an opportunity not to kill that guy.
Many times,
and he took it every single time. Right. So that's where that argument just falls away.
Yeah.
In particular,
I have very mixed feelings on the death penalty.
Yes, I imagine as a libertarian,
Yes.
your libertarian streak would necessarily make you a lot more trepidatious than a lot of us.
And what's interesting in this case right here is the arguments of his defense make me more convinced that this actually is justice in this case. I agree with you. He had a bad childhood. Therefore, what? He's not responsible for his actions when he hurts other people?
Right, yeah.
No, that's not the way that it's supposed to work. I would be in almost any of these cases, if the governor says, you know what, I'm going to commute the sentence, life in prison without possibility of parole, I'm not losing any sleep over that. I'm just not. But I'm not losing any sleep if the execution goes forward tonight, because there were two officers, and often you say, why didn't they shoot back? They don't carry guns in the jail. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, they don't want them taken from them.
Because they could easily be taken. There's a reason that they are armed the way that they are armed and not armed the way that they're not armed.
Mm-hmm.
And he took advantage of that. I'm sure Randolph County Jail has probably improved their security since then, since 2020. But he went in with a loaded weapon and ended up taking lives as part of a plan to release somebody else from jail.
Yeah.
So Governor Parson, I think, is correct in not commuting this sentence, or not commuting, but not giving
a stay,
not giving clemency.
That's
the
right.
word
Yeah,
I'm looking
yeah,
for.
Yeah. Agree.
So assuming the U.S. Supreme Court doesn't intervene, it looks like he'll be put to death sometime late this afternoon.
I'm more of a death penalty advocate on some level in that I think it should be available as a punishment, but I think the standard should be extraordinarily high. But I also think the process should be faster.
That's another interesting question.
It is,
because you're talking about something you can't do over.
Yes, I mean, and then of course you got people on death row for 40 years.
Yeah. All right, 314-912-1019. Just ahead here, former Congressman Bob Barr. Let's talk about how many states are basically flipping off the U.S. Supreme Court and the Constitution right now after the Supreme Court rules on what the Second Amendment means. And they're still working to take away your right to self-defense. We'll get the update on that just ahead right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 meteorologist Matt Chambers with your first alert forecast, an air quality alert day as smoky skies linger and ozone levels jump this afternoon. If you've got respiratory issues, it's a good idea to limit your outdoor exertion today. Otherwise, nice morning by June standards, and humidity stays low this afternoon. A dry day, but a warm one, a high at 89. Down into the mid-60s tonight before a backdoor cold front slides in Wednesday and brings a few showers and storms. Not a drought buster, unfortunately. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
The flow of information
This week on News Talk STL.
Take a look at what's going on.
To get to the bottom.
News, analysis, opinion.
We have had multiple conversations with the Ukrainians about the risk of escalation here.
That laptop was real. Every major news outlet and Facebook and Twitter refused to allow it to be disseminated or discussed.
101.9 and 94.1.
There's a lot in this bill that's very good. There's some that's not so good, but it is a compromise.
News Talk STL.
Saw another headline this morning, a local small business hit by hackers. The ransomware happened. It happens to small businesses. It happens to nonprofit groups. It can happen on your home computer as well. You've got to be ready. You got to talk to my friends at ThrottleNet. Mike Ferguson here for my friends at ThrottleNet. You can learn more at throttlenet.com. I'll give you their phone number here in just a couple of minutes. Okay, put yourself in this position. You go into your work, or you're volunteering at your church, or you're volunteering for the nonprofit group, and whatever the case is. And you get either the blue screen of death, which has happened before, meaning something's gone wrong with your system, or you get the note that says, we now own all of your information and access to everything that you've got either on the cloud or in the computer system or in your database. Send your Bitcoin payment here, and then we'll release it to you. By the way, it's going to be $10,000, $25,000, $50,000. And if you don't think you're vulnerable, remember just about a year and a half ago, the Colonial Pipeline got hit with a ransomware attack and shut off the oil production for the entire eastern seaboard. If they can do it to them, they can do it for you. They can do it to your small business. They can do it to your church. They can do it to your charitable group. They can do it to anything. They can do it to your home. And by the way, it's just a few clicks of the buttons, and they want to hit as many people as they possibly can. So don't think they'll never come after you. That's why you should work with my friends at ThrottleNet. 314-820-0383. Listen, this is just a reality of life now, and this is how so many people make their living, not just in the U.S., but around the world, because they don't have to be here to hit your computer system. We all know that. So cybersecurity, never been more important. It's always going to be more important as time goes on. Are you ready for a ransomware attack? And most people, if you're really honest with yourself, you're going to have to say, no, I'm not. Man, what would happen if they got access to my banking system? What if they got access to my medical records? What if they got access to anything on my computer or my company's computer or anything? That's why you need to go to throttlenet.com or call them at 314-820-0383. We're talking 24/7, 365 coverage. You sign up with ThrottleNet, they are answering. Matter of fact, if you look at all of their calls when their clients call in, on average, you are talking to a real-life ThrottleNet employee. You're talking to an expert within 1 minute and 57 seconds on average, which means for the most part, you're going to get to somebody faster, but you're not going to be put on hold forever. These are people who go in and defend you. Yes, it's cost-effective, but you really can't afford not to do it. ThrottleNet.com or 314-820-0383.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Columbo and Katie.
It's amazing to me just how well positioned former President Trump is in the polling, man. I mean, I thought DeSantis would be more formidable. If his polling doesn't close, he's going to have to figure out a better way than trying to differentiate himself from Donald Trump. And that's going to be a tall order for him because he actually needs the Trump base. He needs some portion of that base.
Tony Columbo, Katie Fitzpatrick. Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Tony Columbo here, reminding you to visit my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton before your next trip into the great outdoors. For decades, Bluff City Outdoors has covered all the needs for area fishermen, and they'll always have all the best bait, tackle, and gear for your next trip on the water. And now they cover all your bow hunting needs, including their state-of-the-art indoor archery range and techno hunt system, open every day for you to come shoot, or you can join a league. Follow Bluff City Outdoors on Facebook and learn more at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows. Mike Ferguson in the Morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Columbo and Katie, Jones and Arps. Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. Subscribe and watch News Talk STL.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
Here in the studio, I noticed, and I don't know who put this up here, there's a sticker right behind me, and it is from the NRA-ILA, from the Illinois side of the listening area, and it shows a firearm, and it says, "Come and take it." Well, there's a lot of states and a lot of politicians that are looking at that as a challenge, and that's what they're trying to do. Your constitutional right to self-defense under attack again as blue states continue to flip the bird at the Supreme Court and the Second Amendment, and frankly, you. It is 7:40 right now. I'm Mike Ferguson. Got Gabe Pfeiffer here. Got Stel Ponticus here. Don't forget our Father's Day promotion with Blust Jewelers happening right now. Just go to newstalkstl.com. Give us your best dad joke, and we're going to pick one and give somebody a $500 gift card to Blust Jewelers. We're just going to pick it at random. So send us those dad jokes, and you could end up with a $500 spending spree at Blust Jewelers, blustjewelers.com, but enter at newstalkstl.com. Former Congressman Bob Barr is part of the National Board of Directors of the NRA, and they're having actually a meeting in Virginia right now, which is where we connect with the congressman. And Bob, good to talk to you again. Let's count how so many blue states have reacted to the Supreme Court's rulings. New York, Illinois, unfortunately, the city of St. Louis, where we are, Hawaii, and some others are just passing anti-Second Amendment, what on the face clearly fly in the face of the Supreme Court's rulings last year, but they've doubled down going after our Second Amendment rights all over the country. First of all, why would you've been in politics for a long time, why would they do this? And secondly, what do we expect from these cases?
Hopefully, there will be one of these cases that will make its way this year to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will do what it needs to do, and that is to tell the different states and local governments that are fighting against the Supreme Court's ruling last year in the so-called Bruin case that when the Supreme Court speaks clearly that Second Amendment rights belong to the individual and states cannot arbitrarily limit that right, that it means what it says. It used to be in an age long ago, states and local governments would pay attention to and obey Supreme Court rulings. No longer is that the case. You have these arrogant states like, as you mentioned, California, Hawaii, New Jersey, New York, Illinois, that see a Supreme Court decision and basically give them the high hat, say, we don't care what you say, we're still going to try and get around this and limit Second Amendment rights. That's an even more important problem than what they are doing to the Second Amendment, because they are saying, we don't care what the Supreme Court says, we're going to do what we want to do anyway. Go ahead and take your best shot. So it's undermining the very notion of a rule of law in our country, Mike. That's the most serious problem that the problem you've identified represents.
Good morning, Bob. That's one of the things that concerns me. This is Gabe Pfeiffer, by the way, is the flouting of Supreme Court precedent, which was set, and it has been recently in regards to the Second Amendment. And not only the states, but I think the lower courts are actually kind of rebelling in that way as well. Is there a remedy? I mean, can the Supreme Court issue a ruling that's so tight and so hardcore that it can prevent these things from coming up, or is this just going to remain a tactic by the left to continue to fight this in the court and cause these 2A organizations to waste money?
Unfortunately, I see this problem continuing because we have, in many of these states, a majority of voters who will vote back into office time and again those public officials who agree with them and who don't understand the importance of the rule of law. Saying to the Supreme Court, we don't care what you said on guns because we just don't like guns, we're not going to obey you. That is it's very destructive with regard to the Second Amendment, but more importantly, that is the sort of attitude, that disrespect for the rule of law that can infect society broadly, and it can be used against those very same people the next time there is a case that they agree with but others disagree with. So it is very destructive, and frankly, I don't see it ending anytime soon, unfortunately.
We are visiting with former Congressman Bob Barr. And Bob, I want to switch over and ask you about the weaponization of government under the Biden administration in just a moment. But first, let me follow up real quick. You're at the board of directors meeting for the NRA right now. I'm sure this is on the discussion at the meeting where you are right now. What is the NRA's assessment, and what would organizations like the NRA need to do to help the people in all these different states, Illinois in particular, in our area, and soon to be in the city of St. Louis, because they're working on an anti-2A bill as well. But what could the NRA's role be in fighting back against this?
What we at the NRA do is several things. First of all, we look at the lay of the land. We follow all of these cases, these challenges to Second Amendment rights, and we look very carefully at them and involve ourselves in those that are key, in which we stand a good chance of winning. We also know that there are other Second Amendment organizations out there that are fighting in other cases, and that's important too. We can't do this alone. But secondly, it's very important that the citizens and the voters of this country recognize that it's vital that the NRA continue to have the resources that we need to fight these challenges. So it's important for people to support the NRA and other Second Amendment organizations so that we can, in turn, through our ILA, our Institute for Legislative Action, support candidates who understand the Second Amendment, who are willing to support the Second Amendment, and who understand that if the government can take away a right that is expressly guaranteed in the Constitution, then there is nothing that the government can't do. That's why supporting the Second Amendment is so very, very vital to our democracy.
Okay, former FBI Director Comey on MSNBC the other day was asked about a possible second Trump administration, and it was interesting to me, his response, because he basically said that, well, he's worried about a retribution presidency, and he talked about how the president can direct the Department of Justice, the FBI, and others to investigate political enemies, which I thought was telling, because isn't that what the Biden administration is doing? But what do you make of his statements to, in this case, Jen Psaki, but the acknowledgement that this is happening and that the federal law enforcement agencies can or are being weaponized?
You know, Mike, I was the U.S. attorney, as you know, in Atlanta for a number of years back under President Reagan and Bush 1. And I worked closely with the FBI and other federal law enforcement agencies. Back in that day, they understood the rule of law. They understood that they were nonpartisan, and they understood that they would not involve themselves in political issues or political retribution. Nowadays, that has changed dramatically, and we have, with James Comey, I was astounded at what he said. We have, with James Comey, a former director of the FBI, admitting publicly that he participated in the weaponization of the federal law enforcement and federal judiciary. Things have become so cockeyed now that you have a former director of the FBI feeling bold enough so that he can say, yeah, we weaponized these agencies, and now we're afraid that the same thing could happen again if Trump got back in. I mean, he admitted misusing the powers of federal law enforcement. And, you know, the establishment doesn't do anything about it. I mean, this is absolutely amazing. And again, it shows the disintegration of respect for the rule of law in our country.
And in some areas, and I'll let you go after this, Bob, larger cities, we've seen where businesses are pulling out or going to kiosk-only businesses because they can't risk people being hurt and stuff being stolen. When we have that disrespect for rule of law, particularly some of these major metropolitan areas, it's affecting other aspects of our lives. So what do we see as the trend, and what could the, I guess, ripple effects be the more that we have hard left leaders abandoning a rule of law for more of a, what I call a pro-criminal policy mindset?
We're going to see, at least for the time being, the continued disintegration of these left-leaning cities and states. You know, I grew up, as we probably talked about in the past, I grew up living in third world countries. My dad was an engineer working in the Middle East and South America. What we are seeing in these far left cities nowadays is worse than living in a third world country, because there is no respect for law enforcement, there is no respect for the rule of law, and there is no respect for human life. And this is unfortunately going to continue in those cities. All we can do is to make sure that in those cities that have not been so infected, and in those states, that we continue to elect people to local, state, and national office that understand the oath that they take to respect the rule of law and respect our Constitution. And hopefully, sooner or later, it will start to return itself to those cities. But unfortunately, it's going to be a long-term effort.
All right, we're going to encourage people to follow you and Liberty Guard on social media and online. We've already tagged you on our Twitter, Bob. Where can we find more about what you're writing and about the stuff that you're working on these days?
Just, go, as folks you mentioned, to libertyguard.org or to bobbar.org. And, the articles that I write, and we put out a weekly watch on Liberty Guard about important issues, and we'd be glad to hear from folks.
All right, former U.S. Congressman Bob Barr. Bob, good to talk to you again, my friend.
Always my pleasure.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, 314-912-1019. Quick question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Are we having more or fewer unruly passengers on flights these days?
Oh, boy.
And why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll talk about that just ahead right here on 1019-94.1 News Talk STL.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Hey, St. Louis and Stan Bongino, proud to be part of the News Talk STL lineup.
Every weekday from 11 to 2, we'll get together to talk about what's going on.
News, analysis, opinion, and always some fun. Make an appointment to be with us every weekday beginning at 11 on News Talk STL.
Welcome home.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents, and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. The city was booming. Unfortunately, St. Louis city streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline. St. Louis City Republicans believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. Learn more at stlouisrepublicans.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican Pat Curtis, Farber Treasurer.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the morning brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com.
Hi, this is Mark McCloskey. Check out my show, Mark McCloskey on Fire, Sunday afternoon at 5 here on News Talk STL. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Here's a trivia question. How many commercial flights are there every single day in the United States?
Oh, lots and lots and lots.
Yeah, assuming that we're back to pre-COVID levels.
Got to be thousands.
115,000 a day.
Yeah.
A day.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing.
Once every 568 flights, there is an unruly passenger situation, which means many per day.
Yeah, almost 200.
Yeah. And so it used to be just a year or two ago that there was an unruly passenger once every 835 flights. Now it's once every 568 flights. So we have more unruly passengers on planes.
Yeah, it's a reality. It's not just the perception because of social media or anything like that. It's literally there are more horrible people on airplanes.
And they always show up on your plane.
I've seen people argue with the flight attendants, but I've never seen it rise to the level in person of being unruly.
Yeah.
Now, I've had bad experiences,
Sure.
Screaming babies.
Yeah,
and
everybody has those.
Some moron changing a baby's diaper on the little drop-down tray, which is why you never eat anything off those trays.
Mm-hmm. Be careful.
But what do you think are the most common unruly non-compliance type of things?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, during the COVID era, I imagine it had a lot to do with masking and stuff like that, and people freaking out about this, that, and the other thing. But gosh, I couldn't think of off the top of my head.
People hogging the washroom? Is that on the list?
Yes, in order to smoke or vape. Is still a thing.
That's still a thing.
Still a thing that happens. Getting drunk is the most common
okay.
culprit.
That makes sense.
As well. And so getting into conflicts with other passengers.
Sure.
So those are some of the things that cause, or those are the most common ones. It's like, what are the reasons though? Why are we dealing with so many more of these? And I know we just got, a minute or so left here, but some of the reasons I think that lead to this is, for instance, They're seated next to a baby with an ear infection.
Yeah.
Every in-flight movie stars Adam Sandler. That could be one of them.
Yeah.
They're on Spirit Airlines and melting down is just what you do. On Spirit Airlines.
It's a box they check on the way in.
Yeah. They were supposed to take off at 4:30 and it's 8:45. I guess what I'm trying to say is they're flying Southwest.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
They've had enough of these mother blanking snakes on this mother blanking plane is another reason people snap.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. All right, just ahead here, a national newspaper say Christians are flocking back to public schools.
Really?
Yeah, no.
News, analysis, opinion.
Our great American comeback starts by sending Joe Biden back to his basement in Delaware.
This is News Talk STL.
You could take the 5 worst presidents. They would not have done the damage that Joe Biden has done.
12 million new jobs. More jobs in 2 years than any president created in a 4-year term.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL and newstalkstl.com.
If you're even thinking about buying a home, you need to contact Homestead Financial Mortgage. Get pre-approved. Jump ahead of others looking at the same house. Often you can close in as little as 15 days. Homestead Financial Mortgage can guide you and your realtor through the maze that slows down the process. Go to my website, easy to remember, larry.homesteadfinancial.com. My first name, larry.homesteadfinancial.com.
For adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy, now there's Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months, and Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Nothing in me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new plan. Nothing is every day.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, you could achieve 90% clearer skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. The war in Ukraine takes a more ominous turn as a major dam in Russian-controlled southern Ukraine is breached, unleashing floodwaters, threatening a nuclear plant, and resulting in hundreds of evacuations, with each side in the war blaming the other for the crisis. California officials investigating whether Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was behind a private flight that brought some illegal aliens to California.
A group of 16 migrants from Colombia and Venezuela were taken from El Paso, Texas to Sacramento. Another group of 20 arrived Monday.
We had no idea that they were coming.
Bishop Jaime Soto said local faith-based charities were scrambling to find shelter for them. The two groups never went through Florida, but California Attorney General Rob Bonta says Vertol Systems, which was paid by Florida to fly migrants to Martha's Vineyard last year, appears to be behind the flights. I'm Jennifer King.
Police in Hollywood, Florida have arrested 3 suspects in a Memorial Day shooting along a busy beachside boardwalk that injured 9 people. Dozens of World War II veterans among those gathered in France commemorating the 79th anniversary of D-Day. The historic military operation led to the liberation of Western Europe from the Nazis. The veterans are remembering their comrades, those who did and who did not make it back home.
Using wheelchairs, they formed a parade along the streets of the small town of Saint-Mère-Église, France, on Sunday. The veterans, most of them American and British, then headed to Utah Beach. One 99-year-old remembered it was tough as more than 150,000 Allied troops landed there on June 6, 1944. On that single day, 4,414 Allied soldiers lost their lives, 2,501 of them Americans. Keith Peters reporting.
FBI Director Christopher Wray may be held in contempt of Congress for failing to turn over subpoenaed documents dealing with Biden family business affairs. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Miss Prager here. Sue and I mean it when we say dogs are part of our family, and there's nothing like their loyal companionship. So we provide them with Rough Greens, RUFF, because we want them to feel healthy and be with us as long as possible. I know Charlie Kirk feels the same way.
The Pragers and I couldn't agree more. I rely on my trusted furry friend, Mr. Briggs, who's an absolute machine, and he relies on me to provide what's best for him. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black has packed Rough Greens, not a dog food, but a supplement full of vitamins, minerals, digestive enzymes, and omega oils that Mr. Briggs absolutely needs and loves. Trying Rough Greens for your dog just makes sense.
Greetings, Naturopathy Dr. Dennis Black here. I'm honored that the Pragers and Charlie trust their dog's health to Rough Green. I'm so confident that Rough Green can help your dog too that I'm offering you a free Jumpstart trial bag. Just cover the shipping. Yes, dog food is dead food, but it doesn't have to be. Go to our...
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 meteorologist Matt Chambers with your first alert forecast, an air quality alert day as smoky skies linger and ozone levels jump this afternoon. If you've got respiratory issues, it's a good idea to limit your outdoor exertion today. Otherwise, nice morning by June standards, and humidity stays low this afternoon. A dry day, but a warm one, a high at 89. Down into the mid-60s tonight before a backdoor cold front slides in Wednesday and brings a few showers and storms. Not a drought buster, unfortunately. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Springtime in St. Louis, and if you hate to paint, do what your neighbor Mr. Rob Miller from Harvesttown Auto Body in St. Peters did. He called Rhino Shield. Rob, what was the thought process for going with Rhino Shield as a business owner?
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted.
Rob, tell everyone how the experience was with Rhino Shield from start to finish.
The process that I liked was when you came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. Our building was really faded. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
Are your neighbors jealous?
I would be if I was them.
Thanks, Rob. Now it's time to call 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Genius.
Don't paint, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Mike Ferguson.
This is the kind of adventure I usually have to force upon us, and here it is, falling into our laps.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
They're buying it.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
Watch your pop a squat, son.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, this is your cousin Rob.
Interesting article that was published in the Washington Post over the last couple of days or so, just over the past week, really. And that was essentially trying to, at least the way I read it, not necessarily attack homeschooling, but more trying to delegitimize in sort of a backhanded approach to homeschooling. And I find that interesting because homeschooling is growing so much, especially over the last few years. So what do we make now of the argument that there is a revolt, using their words, of homeschooling parents, particularly Christian parents, who are flocking back, particularly to K through 12 public education, which I haven't really seen that around where I live, but that's the argument that's being made. How much of that is a factual discussion? How much of that is a narrative? And most importantly, what do parents need to know? I'm Mike Ferguson. I am now joined by Thea Shoemake, and she is the founder of the website, which is homeschoolreadyornot.com. And we will repeat that website a little bit later. Thea, thanks so much for being on the program. I was a little surprised with all the political things going on, with all the economic things going on, with all the cultural things going on, that the Washington Post went out of their way to tell the country that there is a revolt against homeschooling, because I certainly haven't seen it around here.
You know, Mike, I first thank you and appreciate you having me on. Totally agree. If we are going after homeschoolers in this country, I'm going to presume that every other problem has been fixed and we're inventing stuff to go after. Secondly, we must be over the mark. because typically what propaganda does, or the intent, is to sway you from the general trend, which the Washington Post itself in that article mentioned is growing exponentially. I mean, the growth per annum over the last decade in the homeschool demographic has been anywhere from 2 to 8%. They know this. And I think it's just about power and control. And unfortunately, the Washington Post has no problem exploiting this family's issues to make homeschooling an antagonist in a story where clearly it's just part of the setting. And I would say to the Washington Post that if you want to talk about educational settings and you want to keep score in the game of assault, rape, and general violence, then I got news for them. Homeschooling is a distant third without any chances of catching up to other traditional school environments.
When we look at education options in this country, I mean, somebody could argue it was a broader attack on school choice, but it looked to me, Thea, like it really was targeting homeschooling, and we'll get into the why here in just a minute. But when you look at why go after something like this, I mean, I've already seen responses to this talking about the Duggars and their TV show and all the weird stuff that's happened out of that. But really, you can look at the kids, but to me, it's more about them going after the parents, at least from what I was reading in that and in some of the responses as well. When you're reading that article, I mean, did you feel like this was going after you or after any kid's education in particular, or can you separate the two?
That's a great question. When I read the article, I just rolled my eyes because I've been involved in politics at the local, state, and national level for over 2 decades. So I've seen this coming. In 2002, a state house staffer let slip that homeschoolers are always a target in education policy. They've just not gotten to us yet. So that was both a blessing and a curse. But they have to go after the situation where parents are going to know their children and vice versa, teach their children to critically think. And are there outliers in every situation? Of course there are. But as far as I know, there's only one perfect parent, and even he had dysfunctional children. So I think it's interesting that they're trying to demonize the demographic, and that's the implicit message here, and try to name, again, homeschooling as the evil whatever, for a breeding ground for strict parents or whatever the story is. And again, it's really unfortunate that this family has been exploited.
So the question I've got then is why? Why go after homeschooling families, parents, kids? Why go after that in particular at this stage of the game, especially after schools were shut down for years because of the fears over the coronavirus?
I think it's very clear that the attack on or consumption of or ownership of children is the goal. I mean, I can, at the Social Workers Conference, education in communist Russia, 100 years ago, they told the group there that they have to get children from the very earliest stages to pull them away from the influence of their families. So they do not want parents taking ownership of and responsibility for their children's education. Because if they do, they're going to create critical thinkers who know how to weigh things in front of them and who know how to spot propaganda eventually and who can think for themselves. That's just the goal of a communist agenda.
So, Thea, when you look at whether it's a debate like this or an article like the one that was in the Washington Post, there could be parents out there saying, boy, I don't like the public schools. Maybe I can't afford a parochial school, or I just think that I've got a better approach to what I want my kid to learn. But that could really intimidate some parents away from homeschooling. What do they need to know when it comes to weighing all their options? Because when I look at homeschooling, I just see another choice when it comes to education freedom, and you can pick whatever is right for you.
Absolutely. And we want all educational environments to thrive. Whatever concerns they have can probably be turned right back around and applied more broadly to other environments. Number one. Number two, most of those concerns can be mitigated by parents. So, for instance, the socialization myth or the introversion myth or whatever myth that you've heard about homeschooling, if that's a concern to you, the beautiful part of homeschooling flexibility is that you understand you own and have responsibility for your child's education. You can mitigate that. You can step in and say, you know what, I don't like the way this homeschooling family did it. I'm going to do it differently.
What's the answer to the worry that, well, but if we don't have oversight from the state or control or rules from the state, we just don't know if we trust you to educate your kids, which is one of the complaints I hear from a lot of people. Teachers unions are, I think, are the loudest on this. They say, but if we don't have the government running this, then we just can't guarantee kids are going to get educated.
Well, I would say that 9 times out of 10, well-intended or not, government destroys everything it touches. That's why it's going after this demographic that has traditionally been so successful. So I'm not sure when they sweep their own doorstep and show me success, general success in their own backyard, maybe they can look at me and offer some suggestions. But until then, they need to stay out of my homeschool.
Why should parents consider, why should families consider homeschooling for their kids, whether that ends up being the right choice or not? Why should that at least be on the menu of options?
That's a great question. Some parents look at it as a calling. Some parents look at it as a refuge. I think more so over the last several years, it's the latter. And if that is an option for you and you can work it out with the logistics within your family, I would say, like most things worth it, homeschool can be challenging on a good day. But at the end of the day and at the end of the decade or whenever your children are older, let me tell you, there is nothing more rewarding. It has been the hardest thing I've done, but it has been the most rewarding thing I've done.
So tell me about homeschoolreadyornot.com. What are parents or what are students going to find there?
So several years ago, I procured the domain name because I would get parents every year who asked about the lifestyle, usually right before school started, which was a little late. But I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a resource for these parents where they could go to get answers, but also to point them in different directions, because there are so many wonderful options out there with regard to curricula or getting legal or finding community. And so for whatever reason, I didn't do anything with it at the time. But when COVID hit, the number of inquiries spiked, if you'll pardon the pun. And I thought, all right, let's dust off the website and let's give this a good go. So that really, we exist to help shepherd parents who are considering the homeschool lifestyle through any real or perceived barriers to entry. That's what we want to do.
All right. Homeschoolreadyornot.com. Thea, are you on any social media?
Yes, sir. I am at Magistra1. Now that's Latin for teacher. Magistra, Magistraone, on both Twitter and Instagram. But I will say this, social media is not my jam. So be patient. I'm analog in a digital world, Mike. So I'm still trying to catch up.
Got it. All right. Thea Shoemake, once again, homeschoolreadyornot.com. Really appreciate the information and the response to that article.
Thanks for having me on. Have a great day.
All right. Do you know any homeschool families? Are you a homeschool family yourself? Got some thoughts on this? The Washington Post really kind of went after you. And as Thea kept saying, the lifestyle of homeschooling, really trying to delegitimize and sort of not really demonize, but essentially try to ostracize anybody who does homeschooling still at this point. I mean, it's behind a paywall, but if you want to look at the article, you can find it at the Washington Post. All right, what do you think? 314-912-1019. This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Don't try to make me stop, no inspiration. You have a soul so dark, it is no more.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and newstalkstl.com.
I have had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your indifference. Stop right now before you blow us all away. You wanna do that? Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your curtain call.
Larry Connors, USA.
It's not uncommon today for young people to try out different labels in search of their truth.
In search of their truth or following your indoctrination.
Larry Connors.
Which came first?
Weeknights at 6 on News Talk STL.
Are you wanting to improve the look and efficiency of your home? Well, one of the best and easiest ways you can do that, get some new windows. Window World, simply the best for less. You can give them a call today at 314-993-1800. Over 20 years in the business in the St. Louis area, over 70,000 satisfied customers. That's because Window World uses double strength glass, gives it a strength not commonly used in replacement windows. They've got the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. They've got 18 months, same as cash financing. You can get them today. 314-993-1800, windowworld.com. That's windowworld.com.
Now, the Free Market Minute, brought to you by the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University.
I'm here with Dr. Howard Wall. Howard, we hear a lot of debate about inflation, but real quick, what's the definition of inflation?
Inflation is when the economy has too much money chasing too few goods. That extra money sloshing around has to go somewhere, and it ends up as higher prices for just about everything.
So what's transitory inflation then?
Well, there are temporary things like pandemics and wars that restrict supply and raise the prices of goods like oil, but the root cause of inflation, like we've been seeing, is money. Fingers get pointed at corporate greed and price gouging, but those don't rise and fall with the economy. So, really, you shouldn't be fooled. Loose money got us into this mess, and only tighter money will get us out of it.
The John W. Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University fosters and examines market-oriented approaches to economic and social issues. To learn more, visit hammondinstitute.org.
Tuesdays just got better with Taco Tuesdays at Espino's Mexican Grill and Hippo's Cannabis Dispensary. These two great local small businesses right next door to each other in beautiful Chesterfield Valley, 17409 Chesterfield Airport Road. Shop Hippo's on Tuesdays. Spend $50 or more. Get 2 tacos from Espino's with a valid Hippo's lunch ticket. Hippo's open on Tuesdays from noon to 7 p.m. Hippo's has those experienced personal bud tenders to walk you through the entire process. Espino's Mexican Grill has experienced personal bartenders and waitresses to take your order. You might even see Brett Hull, Kelly Chase, or Barrett Jackman at Hippo's Dispensary in Chesterfield. Espino's Mexican Grill, Hippo's Dispensary, together in Chesterfield Valley, 17409 Chesterfield Airport Road. Espino's MexicanBarGrill.com, Hippo'sCannabis.com. If it's a bud tender or bartender, they've got it all.
All deals valid only while supplies last. Must be over 21. No cash value. Management retails all rights. Medical decisions should not be made based on advertising. Consult a physician on the benefits and risks of particular medical marijuana products. This message is not designed to increase interest in purchasing medical marijuana nor any particular product. License number DIS 000129.
I think we should be able to have a civil conversation.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL.
Okay, 8:35. I'm just telling everybody right now. Here's what I'm going to be talking about, and I really want to know what you think. 314-912-1019. Some of the candidates in the Republican race for president are not just comparing and contrasting themselves on issues, but when it comes to them running in a race with Donald Trump, they're now making the argument, sure, he can win the Republican nomination, but can he win the general election in November of 2024? I'll let you hear a couple sound bites. I'd love to know what you think about that. Is that a fair question to bring up? Is it a valid question to bring up? I think it's valid, but what do you think the answer is? So let's talk about that right around 8:35. I'm Mike Ferguson, got Stel Ponticus here. Also, man, there are new presidential candidates just everywhere. You can't go anywhere. Can't throw a rock without hitting a presidential candidate. And I know some people would love to do that, so don't, because that's illegal. And also the Cardinals, man, things not going well again. Hot streaks, cold streaks. Guess which one we're in right now. All right, 8:21 right now. Okay, FBI Director Christopher Wray will be held possibly in contempt of Congress as soon as this week by the House Oversight Committee. This comes after the FBI continues to refuse to hand over a subpoenaed document, subpoenaed from this committee in Congress. And according to those who have seen it, they say that it shows President Biden was involved in a bribery scheme with a foreign national while he was vice president. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, who obviously is the Republican on that, and the ranking member, Democrat Jamie Raskin, they were allowed to look at the document in person on Monday, but the FBI is refusing to hand it over to everybody so that everybody can see it on the committee. And both the Republican and Democrat, Comer and Raskin, are both critical of the FBI's refusal to hand over that document that has been subpoenaed. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy was on with Jesse Waters on Fox yesterday, and here's his reaction to the whole situation.
Every single person on the Oversight Committee, they have a responsibility, not just two people, Republicans and Democrats. All of them have a right to see it. That is their job. That is the role of that committee. And we have constitutional authority over the FBI. They don't get to tell us yes or no about this process.
And by the way, the next hearings could start as early as Thursday. And still, Kevin McCarthy is 100% right about Congress has oversight authority over the FBI. So the FBI basically saying, yeah, no, we'll pick and choose which rules we decide to follow with you is incredibly, incredibly dangerous, not just from a partisan perspective. I mean, because we see the witch hunts that are happening with the FBI against, enemies of the administration. But anytime any aspect of an administration, especially the law enforcement branches, they decide whether or not they're going to allow themselves to be accountable to oversight and accountable to the elected bodies, that is the recipe for, frankly, despotism and tyranny in this country. That's what worries me more than even this document.
Yeah, I don't like their attitude at all. And we sort of went through this with Eric Holder, and Eric seemed to somehow duck every fastball.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see that happen again here. So Kevin needs to keep pushing.
If the DOJ, if the FBI, if these entities are not brought back, reined in to say, no, here's your lane and here's the boss, here's who you report to, then what you will have is a rogue political agency that will be at the disposal of whoever is elected, and the power will be abused, and it will not be long. And frankly, it's already happening to some degree.
Yes.
That before each and every one of us could be targeted.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I am the guy in town who is averse to hyperbole, but that's where this is headed. And it's not even, it could be an unintended consequence. No, it's an intended consequence by allowing a rogue agency to become simply the Politburo arm of any party, of any president, of any persuasion whatsoever. So.
Yeah, anybody who's paying any attention to what's going on inside the Beltway knows that we've got a situation of everything getting weaponized.
Mm-hmm.
That's inside any of the three-letter alphabet agencies. We've got some serious problems.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's a lot of people who are focused on the document at hand,
Mm-hmm.
showing what Joe Biden did or didn't do, whatever the document shows. I'm not downplaying the importance of that, but I'm saying there's an even bigger picture than that, and that's a big picture. But there's an even bigger picture, which is why the FBI has to be controlled. They just have to be. Okay, a Missouri inmate scheduled to die by lethal injection today. That is after Governor Parson denied clemency to 42-year-old Michael Tacius. He is scheduled to die late this afternoon, early evening. Tacius killed 2 guards at the Randolph County Jail in 2000. He was being held there on like a misdemeanor thing. He was released, but he came back with a gun trying to help another inmate escape, and he killed 2 guards. If the execution is carried out, it'll be the 3rd one in the state of Missouri this year and the 12th in the nation. The defense that's working on his behalf, they are arguing, among other things, he was only 19 at the time. He had a bad childhood and was neglected as a child, and he didn't mean to kill anybody, even though he went back into a jail with a loaded gun and fired multiple shots.
As Gabe mentioned earlier, sorry, those are not excuses.
I agree. Okay, Republican presidential candidate Tim Scott was booed when he appeared Monday on The View.
What a shocker.
I know. Bob Agnew from townhall.com's got the story for us.
When Scott praised Florida governor and fellow presidential candidate Ron DeSantis, he was booed by some members of The View's live audience. Scott had defended DeSantis in his dealings with Disney over what Scott called our young kids and what they're being indoctrinated with. Host Whoopi Goldberg apologized to the senator, telling the crowd, no, not here, reminding viewers that at The View, quote, we don't have to believe everything people say, but you cannot boo people here. Bob Agnew reporting.
Because they're so civil and upstanding on The View. Oh, geez, what a mess that was. Just what a mess. And remember, he went on The View to respond to them saying, Joy Behar in particular, who didn't show up for Tim Scott's appearance, by the way, her argument that Tim Scott doesn't know what it's like to be black in America. So the white woman telling the black man he doesn't understand what it's like to be black in America. That's the only reason that could explain why he is a Republican. And then he says, you know what, I'll talk about it. I'll come onto your set. And she's nowhere to be found.
And she made the same comments about Clarence Thomas.
Yep.
And you put Clarence Thomas together with Tim Scott, in my opinion, two great gentlemen. And for Tim to go on the show, I give him all the credit in the world. But, boy, it was kind of an awkward situation.
It was. And I... Was it a waste of time? I don't know. Time will tell. I mean, then the question came up. Like Red State had an interesting op-ed that said conservatives, Republicans, don't even bother with these shows. You know, Joe Biden's not going to go on Fox News or Newsmax anytime soon, so don't bother going into theirs. I appreciate the effort to have a dialogue on their terms. Strategically, is he changing any minds? I don't know, but he got some good video out of it. But so did the left, to be real honest. All right. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is expected to formally announce his unsuccessful campaign.
Wait a minute.
I did it again. Okay, sorry. Okay, let me start over. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is expected to formally announce his campaign for president either today, possibly tomorrow. He's got a town hall event today, and I think he's going to be on with Brett Baer tomorrow. Christie has indicated that he plans to be the anti-Trump candidate in the race, and if that's what your focus is, I guess okay. So there's that. I guess have at it.
I wonder if that highway situation is going to come back up in the news. Remember the tollway situation that was in New Jersey, and that turned out to be kind of ugly for him. I wonder if that's going to come back up.
I think technically the word you're looking for is debacle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was trying to be kind.
You know, I mean, and Chris Christie, you give credit where credit's due. He's a Republican who won in a very blue state. He was governor of a very blue state. You give him credit where credit's due, but it looks like he's not getting into this race with any illusions that he's going to win. He just wants to get in to, I guess, be the guy who throws the jabs at Donald Trump because Donald Trump is Donald Trump. And if that's what you want to do, free country, you got freedom of speech. I guess you can do that if you want. So Mike Pence announcing his campaign tomorrow. The governor of North Dakota, whatever that guy's name is, announcing his campaign.
Mr. Burgum.
Yes, him. He's announcing his campaign for president tomorrow. Cornel West, the socialist, and that's being a little bit tiptoey about him. He's really almost a communist, but he's the, grand intellectual that the left absolutely loves. And so he says he's going to run for president on the People's Party ticket, which is a socialist party.
I got to say, when I saw that pop up last night on some news sites that I was scanning through, that certainly came out of left field. Thank you very much.
He'll be here all week. Don't forget to tip your waitress.
But I certainly didn't expect that. And over the years, I've seen him off and on CNN and some of the other networks. And I've enjoyed listening to him, even though I disagree with him 99.9% of the time. He's a fun guy to listen to. But to toss your hat in the ring, I don't know why you're wasting your time.
It's a very Quixotic approach. I mean, I don't know how many states the People's Party is on the ballot, because when you get into third party and independent campaigns, it's like, just run as an independent. Okay, do you realize the millions and millions of dollars and thousands of man hours that are required to get onto the ballot in all 50 states?
All the petitions and everything else.
Very expensive to do. So some of these parties will have access in 2, 3, 4, 5 states. Some of the bigger third parties that are still ineffective, Libertarian, Green, some of those, they may be on the ballot in 45 states. Occasionally, I know the Libertarian Party has made 50 state ballot access. I think the Green Party did at one point too. And then there's some other smaller ones. And it's not something where he has any chance whatsoever to affect the outcome of the election. None. So does he make Biden look more moderate by comparison? Because Cornel West is so extremist when it comes to socialist, almost to the point of being communist. But you're right. He's a pleasant guy to listen to. He's got a great voice. He's willing to listen. He will engage and debate. He does what academics are supposed to do. But I think what a lot of academics are about to find out is that you're not that important to voters. You're just not. Academics try to influence other academics who then go out and try to influence students in the next generation. And when it comes to just voting for academics, I don't care whether it's a right wing or a left wing one, and this is an extremist left wing one, not going to be somebody who affects the outcome. But could he pull Biden to the left or give him cover? with the moderates. I don't know.
Possible.
Yeah, depending on how much attention that he's going to get. Okay, the question I'm asking here just ahead, because I'm trying to get away from reading off this last news copy story that I wrote here. 314-912-1019. Some of the Republican candidates are bringing up an interesting question when it comes to them running against Donald Trump and saying, listen, when you're voting, he may be your favorite candidate, but can he actually win in November? Is that a reasonable question to bring up? Let's talk about that right around 8:35. Okay, fine. The last story, Cardinals lost again. That's 4 in a row.
Well, let me bring up one other sports point because I think folks might be interested. Roger Craig passed away. He was on the 64 Cardinals team that beat the Yankees in the World Series.
Yeah.
Had a 12-year playing career. He was 93 years old, former pitcher with the Giants and some other teams, including the Cardinals. Managed the 89 Giants, I believe.
That's right, he did.
That was in the World Series.
Yeah.
And for me as a kid, as a Chicago White Sox fan too, because I kind of liked the Sox as a kid, he had a great season for the L.A. Dodgers as they beat the White Sox in the World Series back in '59.
Wow.
So he had a really good career, solid pitcher, and everybody really liked him. He was one of those likable guys in the clubhouse.
That's how we end with a smile on our face. R.I.P. Roger Craig.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson in the morning. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 meteorologist Matt Chambers with your first alert forecast, an air quality alert day as smoky skies linger and ozone levels jump this afternoon. If you've got respiratory issues, it's a good idea to limit your outdoor exertion today. Otherwise, nice morning by June standards, and humidity stays low this afternoon. A dry day, but a warm one, a high at 89. Down into the mid-60s tonight before a backdoor cold front slides in Wednesday and brings a few showers and storms. Not a drought buster, unfortunately. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Hey, Tony Colombo here with Tim Jones for the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway. My wife and I wake up every day thankful to the Wallners for the great new home they helped us find and for the tremendous success we experienced while selling our old home. The Wallners have years of experience and a work ethic that is second to none, and for us, the results speak for themselves. But Tim, it's not just the Colombo family. So many St. Louis families have been helped by Rodney and Jen Wallner.
They sure have, Tony. So if you have been thinking about selling your home, don't wait. The market is changing, but it's still a great time to sell. Put that experience and work ethic to work for you and see firsthand why the Wallners sell 15 times more homes per year than your typical realtor before this window of opportunity passes you by. If you've been thinking about selling your home, don't wonder to yourself about how much you can get for it or how fast it could sell. Just call the Wallner team now and get those answers so you don't have to worry or wonder another day. Just call 314-810-SOLD. That's 314-810-SOLD for the Wallner Home Selling Team.
Hi, Jen Wallner here. As a former foster child myself, I have always been an advocate for foster children in our community. Angels Arms is an amazing organization that provides a stable, nurturing, and loving family environment for these children. They ensure these children have not only the childhood they deserve, but the resources needed to become successful, thriving adults. I truly believe that this organization is transforming lives, and I could not be more proud to be a small part of that accomplishment. For more information or to get involved, visit angelsarms.org.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
They're not competent and they are not honest. And he's trying to minimize the Durham report. Because the Durham report exposes him and his FBI. Big time. His FISA warrants on the Trump campaign. Everything. He is full of and he can go himself. So I don't want to hear another word about that.
Vic Porcelli, live and local weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. St. Louis's place to talk.
The American people have further lost faith in our governmental institutions.
People can decide what they want and how they want to live.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Tune in to us at 8 p.m. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
Little Brian Adams here.
Yeah.
He's coming to Enterprise Center July 1st. I did not realize that.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
I saw him back in, I don't know, 1991, 92-ish, somewhere in there. I was in college. He came to the Hearn Center.
Oh, okay.
In Columbia, not Mizzou Arena, because that didn't exist yet. And it was funny because all of us who were, dating gals on campus, all the girls wanted to go see Bryan Adams because, ooh, Bryan Adams, he was back then. So all of us were like, fine, whatever, And he absolutely tore it up. One of the best concerts I've ever been to.
Everything I've ever heard about him regarding live gigs is that he has really good live shows.
He had a great live. I became a fan of his music after that show. I mean, Summer '69 is great. I mean, sure, there's some good songs out there. Run to You, whatever. But boy, you see him live, and you're like, that guy is good. I mean, yes, he's kind of a left-wing loony nitwit, but they all are. But it's a great show. It'll be a really good show.
Again, July 1st at Enterprise Center.
There you go. Hopefully we'll have time to talk about this maybe in the 8:50 segment still. Tim Scott going on to The View. I have more questions that I have answered. I appreciate that he had the guts to do it. Let me put it that way. But now you've got some in the conservative media who are saying, should conservatives even bother going into those environments? So maybe not. I see both sides of the argument. All right, I'm Mike Ferguson. That's Del Ponticus. It's 8:38 right now. I mentioned yesterday because it's Tuesday. I said, one of the things I look for being a guy who's made his living in communications, being a guy who's made my living at different times in politics, in policy, in messaging. I look for things that could become trends. We talked a little bit about a different one yesterday, but one of the things that we're seeing among some of the Republican candidates for for president, I think is interesting. 314-912-1019. What they're now doing, in addition to trying to differentiate themselves between everybody else on where you stand on policy stuff and what your experience is and how you'd handle different things and your ideology, is they're saying specifically when it comes to the difference between them and Donald Trump, is they're arguing you need to ask yourself, voters, whether or not Donald Trump can win in November. Now, we know he can win the nomination. He's the favorite to win the nomination at this point. But here's a couple of sound bites that are kind of the examples of what we're seeing. And they're not just from these two candidates, but for instance, Asa Hutchinson, who's likely never going to be an impact player in this race. The former governor was on Mornings with Maria on Fox Business. And here's how his little bit of that conversation went.
You make your case that he can't win in a November election. He's not best positioned to win against Joe Biden. We're looking for new voices for America, new ideas for our future.
And Nikki Haley was on Fox and Friends as well, and this came up in her conversation as well.
I think it's really important that we go and we take the policies that President Trump had, but we do it with a different approach. And that different approach has to appeal to more Americans, and it has to be someone who can actually win a general election.
Okay, so interesting question there. So here's my question. I'm going to go ahead and bring up on my screen the Rumble chat box, but I'd rather talk to you at 314-912-1019. So here's the thing, Stel. Is it a reasonable question to say, listen, GOP primary voters, caucus voters, you should consider whether or not the person you're voting for can actually win or has a likelihood of winning in November as part of your strategy? Is that a reasonable question to bring up to say, listen, Donald Trump may run away with a nomination, but
is he the guy you want?
Well, it's not even so much is he the guy that you want, is he the guy who could win? Because there's a lot of people who want him to be their guy, but they're bringing up as a strategy. And I am telling you, I don't think these campaigns colluded. I think they're all saying the same thing that could sway voters. And 314-912-1019. So is a reasonable question to bring up in a campaign?
I think it is. And I have no problem with anybody asking that. But as Gabe and I had talked about earlier, will folks actually be able to make that delineation between personality and politics? And do folks really want to have what we thought was a strong economic engine for 3 years? Do we want to see that return? And do we want someone in office who will actually push back against the liberal left and actually have the guts to stand up to them? And I hope you're listening, Kevin McCarthy, because Mitch McConnell and the others aren't doing anything. it's all uniparty stuff. And I'm going to toss Kevin in there, too, because I'm still ticked off about the bill that got passed.
As you should be.
And I say, listen, we've got to get somebody in there who's got the backbone to actually fight back against the liberal left.
Okay, 314-912-1019, and one of their arguments is going to be, but whoever's nominated is going to push back against the liberal left. The difference is that somebody else could have a better chance of winning in November.
I don't want to see somebody in there who's milquetoast, if I can use that phrase. And
but
I think
you just audibly spelled it correctly, so you got it right when you said it. Yeah.
Although I'll be honest with you, I'm wondering if he did that intentionally, misspelling it. I'm just saying. He's a pretty smart guy. I'm wondering, did he just do that intentionally as kind of an extra dig? But anyway. I did spell it correctly in my mind.
That was the dig against Kayleigh McEnany,
yes.
is what he was doing when he was going after her. But here's the thing is, okay, so you mentioned separating out the personality from the politics and the policy. That's probably what everybody should do. The realities of political science is that's not what a lot of voters do.
I understand.
You look at, your hardcore, I am a Democrat, I am voting in the Democratic primary, the Democratic caucus, or I am a Republican, I am voting in the Republican primary or the Republican caucus, or I am a libertarian and I was so high I forgot to vote. I mean, you look at any of those types of things. But no, you look at the Republicans and the Democrats, and what happens is that people tend to go with the person that they feel most passionately about and they connect with the most, and then they're in the position to convince the people who aren't political junkies to become passionate about somebody or against somebody else. So the question being brought up, and Nikki Haley has said it, like we said, Asa Hutchinson has said it, like we said, Ron DeSantis hasn't really hit this very hard, but he has actually said similar things, because I think DeSantis probably wants to go toe-to-toe on policy and executive leadership, whether it's good strategy or not. That looks like that's what he wants to do. But what they're saying is, listen, these candidates over here are more likely to win in the general election. This candidate, meaning Donald Trump, is less likely to win in the general election. And that's what they're asking voters to consider. So is that something that you would consider, or do you worry about whether you're pro or anti Donald Trump, or you're just pro some other candidate? Let's start with Dave. Hey, Dave, you're on News Talk STL.
Good morning. I do think it's a concern.
Oh, hey, Dave.
Everything.
Hey, Dave, your phone was cutting out really bad. Could you start over?
Yes, sir. I think it's a really big concern. I think it's extremely important that, number one, Republicans got to learn to stick together. The Democrats have cleaned our clocks with that for decades. They get a hold of something and they all jump on. They're like a bionic chihuahua that just won't go away. And Republicans have, been wishy-washy about sticking together for any one thing. So, yeah, that's a concern. You have a lot of people who are anti-Trump, and it's a very big concern as a Republican.
Yeah. Okay, Dave. Hey, appreciate you being on the program. And by the way, Bionic Chihuahua is going to be a great name for a rock band someday. Dave, appreciate that. Along those lines, still, Jay Cause on Rumble just said they beat him once. They will do it again if Trump gets the nomination. I'll still vote for him if he wins the primary. So you've got, I'm guessing somebody who's just considers themselves a Republican voter, but that's on their mind too. 314-912-1019. Listen, it is a year plus away for the general election. So I have been around long enough to know not to predict whether or not Donald Trump will win or lose a general election, or Ron DeSantis will win or lose, or Tim Scott will win or lose, or Nikki Haley will win or lose, or Joe Biden will win or lose, or anybody else. But I think that the fact that these candidates are bringing up this question, I think it's probably good campaign strategy and messaging because they're not directly attacking Trump himself, but they're also asking voters to consider strategy as well. And is that something that affects how you could vote? All right, let's do this. Let's go ahead and get the information segment in, then we can get some other thoughts on this. All right, those of you who are calling, I see you. We're going to get to you here in just 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that?
Yeah.
All right, so hang on. 314-912-1019. This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Looking for
Katie.
Just when you think you've seen it all, the latest plan from the left to clean up the environment is to slaughter cows. Yep, we'll fill you in on Tuesday. Plus, we'll check in with Crane Durham at 2:25.
Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Hey guys, Columbo here, reminding you that if you belong to an organization like a school or a church, or your kids are part of a group or a sports team that needs to raise money, there's no better way to do so than with a TJ's Pizza fundraiser. TJ's Pizza has been helping local organizations raise money for over 30 years to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. A local company helping local people, and there's lots of different ways TJ's can help you raise big money fast. Get started now at tjspizza.com.
In St. Louis, the number 5 means only one thing: Albert Pujols. On Saturday, June 10th, the Cardinals host the Reds, and that day, 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will take home their own Pujols Cardinals Road Saturday jersey. And 10,000 kids ages 15 and younger entering with a ticket will get a kids Pujols jersey thanks to High Chew. That's Saturday, June 10th, the Cardinals, the Reds, and the Pujols jersey giveaways. Great seats remain. Get your tickets at Cardinals.com.
Saturday, June 10th is the 31st annual Christian Day at the ballpark, presented by He Gets Us. That day, the Cardinals host the Reds, and fans are invited to stay in their seats for a post-game program featuring current Cardinal players, broadcasters, and this year's featured speaker, former Cardinals player and member of the 2006 championship team, Scott Spezio. That's Saturday, June 10th, Christian Day at the ballpark. For full details or to purchase tickets, visit cardinals.com/Christian Day.
Hey, Columbo here for the great team at All Solutions Pest Control. We've been using pest control services at our home for years, and the results we've had with All Solutions are second to none. So if you're experiencing a pest problem, or more importantly, want to prevent a problem, All Solutions Pest Control are the ones to call. Right now, you can take advantage of their incredible $67 introductory offer. Learn more and contact them now at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
But I'm not going to turn my dial off to you guys. I really like this channel.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home.
Hey, it's Joe Pags. Catch me tonight at 7 o'clock. But right now, back to more of Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Yeah, it's the spirit of radio.
That's right.
That's us.
All right, 8:50 right now. By the way, Vic Porcelli, speaking of the spirit of radio, going to be with you in about 15 minutes right here on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. If you got, I guess we got, 7 minutes or so. If you want to get your thoughts in on the question being raised by some of the Republican candidates. And I'm going to correct one thing that I see written in a lot of media right now. Nobody is challenging anybody else for the nomination for the Republican Party. And media gets that so wrong. They'll say, Governor Ron DeSantis, Governor Nikki Haley, or Ambassador Nikki Haley, Senator Tim Scott. They're challenging Donald Trump for the Republican nomination. No, they're not. It is an open nomination process. There is no incumbent. So that's just a minor thing that just me being the grammar police drives me nuts a little bit. But the question's being raised by a number of the candidates, and part of this is just simple strategy. They're trying to win over voters. And in a lot of cases, you've got people who have very similar, if not identical, policy positions as Donald Trump in a lot of different areas. Not exclusively. There's always going to be some differences somewhere. But what they're saying to voters is keep in mind whether or not he can win in November of 2024. Now, there's going to be some people who say that's ridiculous. Of course he can. He won in 2016. Other people, are going to say, no, that's fair. We can talk about that. What do you think? Is that a reasonable question to bring up? Strategically, it's pretty smart, just from a strategic perspective, to ask voters to consider that. So you want to weigh in on that? Let me know. 314-912-1019. I wanted to mention the Tim Scott thing. Tim Scott goes on The View yesterday and decides to face down most of the regular cast of The View. Not all of them, because somebody was missing.
In the cast of characters.
In the cast of characters. The white woman who said Tim Scott doesn't know what it's like to be black in America didn't show up when he said, okay, I'll be there and let's talk about it. Joy Behar is the one who said that unbelievably stupid thing just last week, saying that Tim Scott and Clarence Thomas, who, as Gabe pointed out, literally grew up under Jim Crow laws, that they don't know what it's like to be black in America. And so Tim Scott shows up and she is nowhere to be found.
Interesting day to take a day off there, Joy.
Yeah.
I don't know how you worked that out, but somehow she did.
And if somebody says, well, maybe that was just her scheduled day off. I mean, everybody gets days off. I mean, I was at the Cardinals game the other day and Chip Carey sat right in front of me. And I'm like, aren't you supposed to be, but he had the day off. It happens. But here's the thing is if you've got somebody there willing to come in and confront the argument and this is going to be good, you tell them, okay, come in on the next day. And then we can have that conversation, but she just wasn't there. Okay, so here's like part of what the exchange went.
You don't believe in systemic racism. What is your definition of systemic racism?
One of the reasons why I'm on the show is because of the comments that were made, frankly, on this show, that the only way for a young African-American kid to be successful in this country is to be the exception and not the rule. That is a dangerous, offensive, disgusting message to send to our young people today, that the only way to succeed is by being the exception. The fact of the matter is we've had an African-American president, African-American vice president. We've had 2 African-Americans to be secretaries of the state. ABC, NBC, CBS, ESPN, CNN, Fox News all have African-American and Hispanic hosts. Yesterday's exception is today's rule.
The dramatic music was put on by Tim Scott's campaign for their Twitter account. But he had the facts, and I think he made a much stronger argument. Typically, he got cut off, and at one point he actually got booed by the audience because, frankly, he was winning the discussion, and he actually had the gumption to say, yes, companies like Disney, specifically Disney, are participating in the indoctrination of children, and they lost their minds, and even Whoopi Goldberg was like, stop booing him, because she's so morally indignant or something like that.
By the way, I would love to see him go on with Colbert and some of the others late at night, even though their ratings have somewhat disappeared over these last few years. I would still love to see him invade some of those shows, especially with the audience reaction that that the View folks gave. I can see that happening in Colbert's studio, too, and I would love to see Tim really push back against
Colbert.
Steve.
Yeah, Colbert versus Tim Scott would be a battle of wits, with Colbert basically being unarmed, to steal that cliche out there. Okay, we got a couple minutes left here. Looks like we got Jim here. All right, Jim, it says here that you got some thoughts on the whole question about should voters consider whether or not they think Donald Trump can win in November of 2024. What's your take on that?
Well, the rhinos and the kleptocrat politicians for years have been using the concept of electability to get their people into office. Look at the Missouri Senate leadership. It's the same people. Asa Hutchinson is a rhino in rhino's clothing. Of course he wants to make sure, look at the supposed Republicans that fought against any candidate that Donald Trump endorsed in 18 and 20 and in 22. Okay, those people have something wrong with them. And what's wrong with them is they have a path to power and money, and they want to convince us that the only way that we can get anything done for us is to vote for them. And the worst part is, if we decide to run a different candidate, they're like Lucy. They take the ball away and they go home. When Charlie Brownstein kicked the field goal, we can't vote for those people anymore until they give in.
Okay. And Jim, if you don't mind me asking, have you decided who you're going to vote for if you're in a caucus or a primary? I don't know which side of the state line you live on.
I'm going to vote for Trump.
Okay.
And it's more a concept of there's other candidates that I still like, but part of it is I think he got shafted, and he got shafted bad, and that really offends me. And so I'm going to vote for him, period.
Okay, got it. All right. Hey, Jim, appreciate you being on the program.
No, thanks. No problem.
All right, great. And I really appreciate him getting his point in before the heartbreak, too. So,
Yes.
yeah, that's, no, but seriously. But see, there's a lot of people that are going to have that response, and they say, this is the person I want. This is my favorite. I'm going to vote for them no matter what. And that's the messaging battle that's going to happen in addition to some other, policy stuff as well. But that if the other candidates can try to make that an issue, I think they're starting. I think it's a fair question, and then it's on Donald Trump to say, no, here's why I can win.
And I have to agree with Jim because I feel like the RNC did very little to support Trump.
I
and
think
some of the candidates that they should have supported.
And the RNC, by the way, and we don't have time to go into it, but they're now saying that the candidates should not be allowed to participate if they want to do the RNC debates, that they shouldn't be in other debates not sponsored by the RNC. Screw the RNC.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening on this, what is it?
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
When it's important to you, stay informed. It's on News Talk STL.
Don't use a smoke and mirrors game in Washington and act like you're saving things, because we are not.
The only people happy with this bill are China, which is buying up our debt, and then Biden administration, which is being proven to be corrupt and compromised.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Restoring sanity means we can't have every major institution in our country going on ideological joyrides.
101.9 and 94.1.
Gotta know what's happening.
News Talk STL.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-737-9944. That's 1-800-737-9944. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-737-9944. That's 1-800-737-9944.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
Mystic Fix is sponsored by Comma Flight, redefining the dance between the masculine and feminine. Comma Flight is a somatic movement practice merging yoga, meditation, and massage. Workshops in